what I miss in doing men's work is you being there so that you can actually see what men do when we're together, so that you can see how much men cry, so that you can see how we laugh, so that you can see the intimacy that we have with each other. I can only talk about what I see in real young men in the United States. I can't speak to what's going on in Germany. But that proverb that I gave you that actually comes from Africa, which is, if we don't initiate the boys, they'll burn the village down just to feel the heat. And I can't imagine that this is different anywhere else.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Going Out, looking in, the podcast about the big questions of life, personal growth and spirituality. My name's Maxi, I'm your host. Welcome back. I got a very special episode for you today. The first ever live podcast we did in this very room together with so many beautiful souls that are listening right now. I know. Thank you so much again for attending this very special event and experience that we co-created. And also, obviously, many thanks to our beautiful guest, Matoska Chafin. So for all of you who previously tuned into the podcast, we did already a podcast episode together, Vince and myself, and touched on so many different things and out of that grew just a very organic connection. May I say friendship, mentorship, whatever label I can put on that. I'm so grateful for the connection I share with Vince and the wisdom that he brings to my life. I really cherish those connections. It's really crazy. I mean, like all the people I can, I'm honored to have on here. I can more or less call, people I can really turn towards with questions and stuff that moves me. And so that event and all the people who showed up was something very, very special for me. And so for all of you who didn't have the chance to be here in person, we were provided with the most awesome conscious vegan food. We meditated together, we chanted together, we shared conversation together, and also all of the guests were able to ask their very personal questions to Vince, which also is part of this interview. So basically, the conversation is split in two parts. The first one is the actual interview, and then the second part is the Q&A with all the questions from the audience. I also encourage you to look into the show notes, because that's where I'll be basically putting in all of the different time codes and questions, so you can, because it's a very long episode, just skip back and forth and tune into what kind of bits and pieces you want to listen to. I hope the entire thing, because it's actually really interesting. And for all of the people who didn't listen to the first episode I did with Vince, just a brief summary of his vita. So basically, Vince is a men's work facilitator. He's been working around the globe for more than 25 years in the fields of healing, generational trauma, being a ceremonialist, a sacred space holder, a wisdom keeper. And when you hear him talk, it's just like, I don't know where he basically gets all this information from, but he just like effortlessly connects Eastern teachings with psychology and philosophy and personal life experience. And it's just like this this super wise man I love turning towards with all of life's big questions. And he just never fails to impress me with his answers. And so I hope he does so with you as well. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and keep supporting the podcast. If you resonate with what we're doing here, the best way to support us is basically share the podcast. Just share it with people that you think might find that interesting. Also, those kind of rating things, 5 stars, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, subscribe and like the video. All of that helps the channel. And yeah, that's all I'm asking. I'm gonna keep working my ass off to provide more of those conversations, also more of those live events. Currently, in my life, as I mentioned in previous episodes, there's so much going on. It's actually really hard for me to plan the next couple of weeks even. So I'm not so sure about the next really physical live event. But let me tell you, this podcast is my number one priority, and I'm gonna make sure to deliver more awesome content and interviews. So stick with me, please, and enjoy the ride. That's it. Enjoy the journey. All right, my friends, namaste, and much fun with Vince Matoska Chafin.
So my hope is we're going to have a conversation, and then at some point in time, it's going to shift from us having a conversation to us having a conversation. That's my want. And my want is for this to be an organic, blossoming thing. It's not about me saying any particular thing. There's collective wisdom in this room that is much wiser and much smarter than I could ever be. So my hope is that at some point in time, there's an inspiration to ask a question or explore something deeper. And my want is to come out of this deeper connected here and deeper connected here. Was that okay in my broken German? It's kind of rough. Sorry.
Yeah.
How's that? Is that okay? Yes. And thank you all for coming. What a sweet thing. We did the first podcast, and I took the liberty of giving him advice. And I thought it was kind of strange that you reached out to me the way you did and how you did, knowing that in about 2 months I was going to be in Berlin on a whole nother thing. And I thought, well, we should do something. And the thing that I miss in podcasts and in what we're doing currently in social media, it's all didactic. It's all one way, typically. There's not a conversation. And I like that. I like the connection. I want to feel connected. That's if I had an underlying need for you NLP people, my underlying need is to want to feel connected. And if it's just one way, it's very challenging. I find that more challenging. So I was really hoping that we were able to have people here so that we could create that connection. We were talking earlier. Where's my little friend over there? How social. Well, I shouldn't get going. We should start. No, is that okay?
I love to hear you. I love to hear you talk.
We were talking about how this myth that social media is bringing us together. We're at a time where it feels like we're more connected than ever. I have this device that's the portal to the universe in my hand all the time, and I can connect to people all over the world, but yet, in my experience so far, and I think a lot of you feel this way as well, that doesn't seem to be leading to greater connection, real connection, human connection. So things like this, I think, are the antidote to that. So I'm very glad to be here. A long-winded way to say I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's about. That's why I also shared, that the conversation that I have with the guests are very powerful for me when I have them. But it's so powerful when there's a conversation arising from people listening to it, then coming back to me and sharing what they have learned, what it did for them, what it brought up. Wow, just wow. And then infinite wisdom is coming together instead of just one or two people talking. It's more, it's opening up a whole room. And that's why it's also so valuable for somebody who is just like putting out stuff to get something back. Like I'm just sending out. So it's not a one-way street, I really want to make it, a roundabout. Yeah. And we are just in the middle. Yeah. And so thank you as well, of course.
Well, I'd love to hear some of that feedback you got, and maybe we can, as we would say in America, riff off of some of that as well and just see what that spawns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, I would like to start with actually, like we started the last one, which just was like feeling into it and asking what's alive within.
I'm feeling a lot of joy right now, a little nervous energy. I'm used to working with people, so it's a comfortable place, although with lights and cameras and everything, usually it's kind of subtle. They're kind of hiding, and they get really good angles off to the side. Everything else set up professional TV style. There's that going on. So it's a little anxiety, I'd say, a little anxiety. I usually don't feel this, but there's like a pressure right now to be smart or to be wise or to say something somehow transmutational that somehow everybody goes, oh, thank you. So there's a small part of me that wants to try to be smarter than I actually am. And so he needs to be, maybe I'll put him over here so I can keep an eye on him and he doesn't cause too much trouble. So that I can just be the hollow bone, be the hollow reed, and just hopefully be authentic and real and hear. That is my hope.
Right.
Yeah. How about for you? What's alive in you right now?
Gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Bit of tension. Bit of holding. Bit of carrying.
Mm-hmm.
And focus. Concentration. But also openness. Yeah. So I might wanna join that party over there.
I was going to ask you, is there anything at all that you might want to let go of? Because you've been working your ass off to make this happen.
Yeah.
Like you've put a lot of time, a lot of energy. This is probably a very exciting time because you're feeling this movement of the podcast taking on new dimensions and kind of growing in a life of its own. And you've put this together, and so there's definitely a holding for sure. So is there any, what support might you need to be where you need to be fully here and not have to carry anything anymore? What might that look like?
I guess connection, I think. I feel. And that's why music is helping me so much. And I feel that having no expectations, and my intention to stay open is very strong. So I might just put that little holding puppet, I might put him over there and keep an eye on him.
Okay.
And see when he has something to say.
You let me know when he's over there. Oftentimes it works if we actually do that symbolically, like we actually do it. Like I put that part of myself or hold it in some way, and then I literally place that somewhere. There's something about the actual metaphor and the manifestation of the metaphor that's very powerful. Just an offer.
Yeah. Well, I'm all here for it. So, I guess I'll do that.
Could work.
Yeah, because it's coming up oftentimes, and so that's why just being aware of things it helps me very much. Like, oh yeah, I'm aware of that. It's coming up. It does something to me. Makes me feel what I feel, which right now is that thing of carrying, holding, upholding, delivering, being. And so while that is very present, for example, when I'm meditating, I really seek for ways of bringing it into my daily life as well.
The letting go or the holding? The letting go.
Letting go.
Yeah.
The letting go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being aware and letting go. And so what might be a way you have encountered to let go when something is coming up?
Well, we can do it really easy right here if you want to.
Okay.
You want to do that?
I want to do it.
All right. So do you got a pen?
Do
we have a pen? Does anybody have a pen close by?
Yes.
If you don't mind, I'm getting to the back of your book.
In der zweiten Schublade?
The Viking Schublade. In the Viking Schublade. That's where the pen is.
Okay.
This is a very, very simple way. So with intention, write down what it is you want to let go of. Very clear. Clarity is like exact words, absolute intention. Anybody else have stuff they're holding on to? If you're not raising your hand, you're lying. Of course you are. Of course you are. I have a question. So we have men and women here. Men typically hold in their neck and shoulders. The story that I make up, women typically hold in their heart and in their womb. Is that relatively true? What's your experience? Both. Yeah. Any place else that's like normal or typical where you hold things? In your ankles. Yeah, yeah. Okay. We have a process for that. We can do that later. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You wrote it down?
I wrote it down.
Close your eyes. Put your intention in that. Like really put your energy in that. Just like you were singing the mantra, just like you were playing the guitar, just like when you meditate, like put it in that piece of paper. In fact, actually tear it out of the book first. Because you're keeping the book for other things.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So this is just a quick little thing we can do for right here, right now. So really put your intention in that. This is the thing you're letting go of. And in your mind's eye, I want you to make a connection between the piece of paper and the place in the body where you hold it. Wherever that is.
Mm.
In fact, actually put the piece of paper on that place in your body. Yeah. Okay. Breathe into that. And feel the place in your body like start to move into the paper and fulfill that. Very nice. That's the perfect bowl. All right. Thank you. Actually, I'll ask you. So when you're ready, I want you, like with intention, as you're pulling this away from your body, to feel it coming out of your body. Like there's a string attached between the piece of paper and the place in your body where it's held. You're literally pulling that out. And then when you're ready, I want you to place it in this bowl for now.
Okay.
And then later tonight, because we can't do it right here, right now, you're going to burn that. But just for safekeeping right now, wherever it needs to be. If it needs to be over here next to mine, that's great. Or wherever in the room that needs to be. You get to choose where that goes.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
So now I'd ask, in that left shoulder area, does it feel like there's any more space in there than there was before?
Yeah.
Okay. Now what would you like to put in that space instead of the whatever you wrote down? What would you like to now be in there?
Love.
Yeah. Okay. So close your eyes. And just start to manifest putting love into that space in your shoulder. And sometimes it's helpful if you imagine it, you imagine a color or a temperature, the texture of it. The more real you make it, the more it feels real in the body.
Yeah, it's filling up.
Yeah.
I feel like I can move my head actually a bit freer,
Yeah.
and I can even breathe deeper.
Yeah. We carry so much more than we know all the time. All of us. And so we have to find ways to put it down or not. I forget the Greek god who was always pushing the rock up the hill. Kind of the fate of so many men. Constantly pushing the rock up the hill over and over and over again. And we have to find, we don't have to, you can do that if that's the way you want to be in your life, but you could choose at some point in time to either push a rock that you choose. We all have to push a rock in life, everybody. Nobody doesn't get to suffer. We all have to suffer. Yeah. But we can choose how we do it and what we do with it, and if we can turn that rock into medicine. Can you turn that rock into your purpose, your mission, why you're here? Nobody escapes pushing the rock. Nobody. So what we do with the rock, that's what we get to choose in life.
So it's not about trying to be simply happy and content.
I was hoping we'd talk about that. Did somebody tell you in your life, your job in life, especially in our nouveau spiritual world, that your job, your purpose is to be happy? That's what you're here for. You're here to be happy.
Well, yes.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. People told me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry they told you that, because I don't believe that's true at all. Because one car accident, one stub toe, one time you eat bad food at a restaurant, a cancer diagnosis, family friend dying, boom, where's your happiness? Gone. It's the wrong goal. It's the absolute wrong goal in life. We get lucky if we have moments of happiness. That's awesome. That's really great. And we all want them, and we all aspire to have those moments of pleasure, free of pain, free of suffering, a moment of joy. That's why the union is so amazing. We get that little moment where everything's gone. It's like, wow, bliss. Awesome. There's only been a handful of people that I know of, that I've heard of throughout history, that were actually able to stay there and live there. The rest of us have lives and partners and husbands and wives and kids and jobs and stuff we have to do. So to stay in that heightened state is pretty challenging, because you're going to drive to work and somebody's going to cut you off. You're going to be riding on your bicycle on your way and somebody's going to step in front of you. Boof. Where's all your mantras then? Gone.
That's where the rubber hits the road, man.
They're gone. So at least in my experience, what we need is a mission. We need purpose. We need meaning. Through the purpose, through the mission, through the meaning, you will find happiness. You will find contentment. You will find gratitude. But you have to have something to do that is fulfilling for you, that creates that state of gratitude and appreciation and presence. Like, brings, for me, the work that I do brings me right here, right now, like nothing else. 100%. And through that, I get connected to joy and pleasure and peace and appreciation and the awe and the magnitude of life and the mystery. But if I just sought happiness, I've tried that road. It's horrible. It's horrible. Like, some of you are, you're giggling. It's like, clearly some of us have tried that and maybe are still trying that. And we're still like under the belief that, oh yeah, it's all about joy. Good luck with that. I've been around long enough to know that life, part of the reason we do boxing in one of the organizations I'm part of, Sacred Sons, is because one of the reasons, it's a metaphor for life. Life is always going to punch you in the face. Always. What do I do when I get punched? Can I still stand up? Can I take a punch from life? Because it's coming. If you haven't been punched yet, a lot of you are quite young. If you haven't been punched yet, it's coming. Trust me, it's coming. So who are you going to be? How are you going to be in your life when you get hit?
Yeah. Well,
And if your whole goal is about happiness, trust me, when you get hit in the face, you're not happy. It's not a happy thing unless you're a psychopath.
Yeah.
And those, luckily, they're here, but the numbers are low. Yeah, not here in the room. I mean here, metaphorically.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Life with. I was experienced some of those punches. I would say.
Yeah.
Probably do so as we speak, and it's just moving from, for me, that really changed drastically, is moving from, in hindsight, looking back, always seeing the silver linings, always, sometimes years later, to now with what is alive within me right now, to do it as it's happening, to, not wait for everything to go down, but really to take the punch, take it, because it's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's present.
Right.
I can't escape it.
No.
And to navigate it with love and compassion for myself. Hard. It's hard. But it's amazing to witness what's coming out of it. Honestly, I would have never thought to take such a punch and keep somewhat going with what is important to me and what I want to bring and want to create and want to, just want to share. And that doesn't really mean that I want to escape. And I'm walking that thin line of experiencing everything fully, taking the punch, feeling the pain, while trying to, do things that are nurturing me on my way. And just to, see it in the grand scheme of things. But that's.
Well, if you can do that,
right
I mean,
now.
if I can get cut off in traffic and immediately go to bless you, I love you, that's great. But most of us can't. I can't do that all the time. That's usually not the mantra I scream when somebody pisses me off at all. Usually I have to get angry first, or I have to get, I leave for a while, and then I come back, and then I remember, oh yeah, they probably have a kid that's, maybe they just went through a custody battle today, and maybe they were late for court, and maybe they're losing their kid, or maybe they're losing their apartment, or who knows. I can create multiple scenarios that get me reconnected to that person's humanity, therefore my humanity. And when I fail and I fall short of who and how I want to be in the world, and when I have impact on others that's less than ideal, because that does happen, absolutely. And I work hard every day to have a positive impact on the people around me. But not always. I have bad days too. So I want to do what I can to as quickly come back to my center and to myself and to love and gratitude and compassion. And that's why it's called a practice, because I have to practice it all the time.
Can we go a little bit deeper into it? When I like the punch as a picture. So when the punch is coming and you're experiencing the pain, and we are not able to say, thank you. All right, I see that. that's good for me in the long run. I will, you know, make the best out of it. Like how do we go about it then?
Well, there's many roads to the mountain, man. Many roads to the mountain. So a breath is a really good idea. Taking a breath and feeling your feelings in that moment. Now, in the work that I do, there's this term called, and a lot of people throw it around now, called the shadow. Obviously comes from Carl Jung, and before him, oh gosh, I forgot his name all of a sudden now, who he studied with and who he learned from. Say again, loud? Huh? Freud, thank you, of course. We talk about the things that we hide, repress, and deny. Okay. It's a term we use, this thing we talk about all the time in men's work, and no matter who I'm working with, I will bring this up, the things that I hide, repress, and deny. So in that moment, like for me, a few years ago, I got diagnosed with cancer. And so the initial response was, oh shit, right? Now I try to be mindful. I can't remember if it's left or right, but I think it's part out of the Buddhist tradition that death always walks with us over our left shoulder, I believe. So I try to become very friendly with death. The reason I want to become friendly with death is because most of us walk around with the illusion that we have tomorrow, that we have tonight, that we have the next moment, the next breath. And I've lived long enough. I have many friends who aren't here, some by their own hand, some by various ways of going out. I've had conversations with people here right now tonight, and the next day I get the phone call they're not here. I know firsthand experience with what death is. So when that all of a sudden became my reality, my wake-up call, oh, right, I don't have forever. You know, I'm here for a limited engagement, very short amount of time. Oblivion, if I'm lucky, 60, 70 years, 80 maybe, if I'm really lucky, never again. It's a tiny sliver of a moment in time. So at first it was like, shit. And then it was, I think I got out one of my guitars and I started playing a little bit of music. And I remembered so many voices in my head talking about how we take our brokenness, how we take the things that we quote unquote don't want and convert them into medicine. So luckily for me, within a few moments, really in a moment, maybe a minute or two, I was like, okay, this is here. This is real. There's nothing, at least in the moment, that I know I can do about it. There are some things I can do about it, and I am. But in this moment, what I can do is do some mental jujitsu to turn this into a path. And it's become a very powerful path for me because I work with mostly men between, I'd say, the age of 18 to 30. None of them think a second in their life about not being here tomorrow. Not one. That's not the stage they're in. They don't think about that. I'm going to be 60 soon, another year, a little over a year. And the stage of my life is now in that sovereign stage where I have to look back at my life and know that the end, I'm much closer to the end, theoretically, than most people, or at least the younger people. But that's also an illusion because, again, any of us can be gone. I've got a lot of friends who are younger, way younger than me, who are gone. So if I get punched in the face, it depends. Like sometimes it's just a jab. So it's like, oh, okay, wake up. Sometimes we get hit really hard. Sometimes we get knocked down. Life knocks us down, knocks us to our knees, maybe knocks us flat, maybe knocks us unconscious. And the practice is, well, let's see if I can find a way to say it that I'm trying desperately not to cuss as much as I normally do. We're not on a men's weekend. To get up. To get up. Because what I've learned by living a life that I'm leading, it sets an example for others if I keep getting up. I spent a lot of time, 30 plus years, lost in depression, thinking about killing myself all the time. I wanted to leave. That's not a really good example for others. That doesn't give people hope. That doesn't give people the strength and the stamina to get up and get moving. Overcoming that, overcoming adversity, overcoming the punches in the life, overcoming when you get knocked flat. That's what provides inspiration for others to know that they can do the same thing too. Yeah. My job is to provide a pathway for young men and young women to go, oh, this is what it's like. This is how I can get old. This is what becoming an elder looks like. This is a way, which means you get up and you use this, I was trying to think of it again. I can't think of the name of it. There's a Japanese pottery technique where they take broken pots and they fill it with, thank you, kintsugi. So it's a whole philosophy, right? It's a powerful philosophy. Can I take the brokenness, my stories of brokenness, and see how it's all tied together with gold, and let that gold be the medicine. Let my brokenness be the medicine. Let my pain and suffering be the medicine. So the quicker I can transform the car accident or the diagnosis or the loss into, how can I allow this to come through me to, in my world, you don't have to do this, but for me, how do I transform or transmute this through me so that it comes out as medicine for myself and others? And the quicker I can do that, the less I suffer. Sometimes I suffer longer, sometimes not as much. But it's time, I got more time in than you do. I don't know your history, I don't know your story. Maybe I've taken a few more punches and I'm a little more used to it now. I know that I can take a punch. I've learned that.
Yeah, but it shines through, you know? So I remember when I did some research before reaching out to you, you were describing your first encounter with people who did work on themselves and men. Mm-hmm. And don't want to put words into your mouth, but I paraphrase something that I've heard you say about it was there's something about those men and what they have.
Absolutely.
And I want that.
Yeah.
And so, man, I'm there. I'm there, man. I'm right there.
Well, this goes for all of us, men and women. When and if we choose to do our work to become as integrated and kind and loving a human as we can be, to do our best in the world and move from what is self-serving to us, all about ego, to being in service to others, if we can step into that world, then yeah, we are different. Mm-hmm. I don't move through the world like other people. And I don't say that from a place of ego. It's just like, I don't. I'm watching if the little old lady coming out of the store needs help, and I go help her. Like nobody else is paying attention to that. I go do that. Like I'm looking for ways that I can be helpful and in service. And I watch young men, especially young men, and it's just normal. This is normal behavior for uninitiated men between the ages of, well, unfortunately now it's like between the ages of 12 and 40. But there's a saying, if we initiate the boys, if we don't initiate the boys, they'll burn the village down just to feel the heat. Young men have to be initiated, and they have to have a purpose in this life. They have to understand that they're part of a whole, and they have a job. They have a role to fill. Otherwise, it's all about porn. It's all about video games. It's all about money. It's all about what they can get, take, fill, take from every woman, everybody around them that they can, to fulfill the space in them that they're not getting from purpose and mission. The only way they're going to get purpose and mission is if people like you and I and the men go grab them, pull them out of their home, and show them their place in this world. That's the only way it happens. Without that initiatory experience, men are lost, and they stay lost. It's the Peter Pan syndrome. It's why the Peter Pan movie exists. It's a perfect analogy of uninitiated manhood. Go watch the movie. Look at it from that viewpoint. You will go, oh my God, this is the story of all the men I've ever known. That's the Peter Pan. This is why they're so frustrated with us, because we don't grow the hell up. Because there hasn't been anybody here to come get you, to help you grow up, to show you the way. You're lost. You have no idea, because nobody like me showed up. Luckily for me, men started showing up in my life. Somehow I was drawing them in. And then I said, yeah, whatever that is, I don't know what that is, but I want that. I want to feel like that. I want to walk in the world like they walk. So I went and I jumped in head first. Head first.
So what was the turning point of sitting? I know a bit of your backstory on how you turned things around. And we don't have to fully go there, but just in terms of like turning things around and then taking a jab, but then finding purpose, how was that for you?
Well, it worked for me the way it works for most people. I kept repeating a pattern, multiple patterns, and they weren't working anymore. Especially for men. I can't speak from a woman's experience, but for men, we're pretty simple, and we'll continue to do the same thing over and over again, whether it works or not. And sooner or later, life reflects back to us, hey, dude, that thing you're doing, how's that working for you? How many divorces, how many jobs, how much drugs, whatever, what have you created in your life other than chaos? And for me, so I heard a man speak not long ago, Brent Weinstein, and he's a behavioral scientist, and he was talking about, and it's finally, he encapsulated it perfectly. We all grow up in a family. We all grow up in a place, a culture, first a family, then a town, a culture, a city, a country. And at least in the nucleus between conception and about 7 or 8, we learn a way of surviving and a behavior pattern within that nucleus of that family. We have to survive in that family. Yeah. And each one of us have different parents with all different kinds of stuff going on. So we come up with really good survival strategies to survive in that home. And then we go to school. And now all of a sudden, there's a whole new set of rules in school. And of course, that changes as we get older. So we're constantly having to adapt with the behavior strategies that we know, the tools that we have. I got to figure out now how to survive in school. And some of us do pretty good, and some of us really suck at it. And then we start putting those parts of ourselves away that aren't working, parts that we get reflected from the other kids. Don't do that, do this. Oh, I need to behave this way. Okay, I'll do that. So I start to put on those masks, those personas, start behaving in certain ways, put away the parts of myself that don't get accepted, and I get bigger and bigger, and then I go to work. But I'm still using the same strategies now at work. And gee, why doesn't the engineering team get along with the sales team very well? Well, gee, I wonder, right? Because everybody's 5 years old, still at home, still using those ways to communicate and survive in these other settings. We grow up, maybe we get married, maybe we have kids, we go through multiple jobs. Yeah, we look like adults, but there's no adults sitting in this room. This room right now is filled with wounded 5, 7, 9, 10, 12, 14-year-olds. That's who's in the room. You look grown up. I look grown up. And I want to present myself as a grown up. But really, there's just a little person in here. So what eventually has to happen, especially for men, and especially if they're in a relationship, usually their partner goes, you either get your shit together or I'm gone. That's usually what it comes to. They keep pushing and they keep saying things and nudging us to grow up. But eventually it usually comes to an ultimatum. Do it or else. And so that's how most 35 to 50-year-olds come to men's work. And I wasn't in partnership at that time, but I was living out that life. I was repeating the same patterns over and over again. It really wasn't that effective, but I didn't know that.
Right.
Because I didn't have any other patterns to play. I had no other tools at that time. And I'd gone to therapy, I'd done family constellation work, did all kinds of things that were starting to like go, oh, wait, maybe there's other ways of navigating the world. These men showed up, and then a friend of mine, Sarah, bless you, hopefully you're out there somewhere, she said, hey, she started listing off 3 or 4 of these guys that were in my constellation world, if you will, in my orbit of my life. They're all part of this organization, MKP. You should probably check that out. Well, I needed something. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what the medicine was yet, but I knew that I needed medicine. And I tried all kinds of things, and none of it worked. But that worked. And that worked because, well, a million things. But at core, connection and brotherhood, and examples of healthy, evolved masculinity. Like, this is the way a man walks through the world. Like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I.e. responsibility, accountability, very core things. But unless you're taught that, most men try to avoid those 2 big ones. They don't want to be responsible and they don't want to be accountable. But that is the thing that at least the feminine expects from the masculine is responsibility and accountability. And that's what the world expects from us. There's no place on the planet that a man can go that he's not held responsible and accountable for everything that he does. So he better learn what those 2 words mean and the difference between his intention and his impact. I was not aware of my impact. Mm-hmm. And those 2 things need to come in alignment. And when those 2 things come in alignment, your values become clear, your path becomes clear, and for me, my grounding became very solid. Do I slip up from time to time? Absolutely, but I also know how to clean it up. We can take a breath. That was a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Talking about carrying and navigating and trying.
No.
Yeah.
Remember Star Wars? You're too young for Star Wars.
Well,
yeah?
Well,
Yoda?
Yeah.
Do not try.
Right.
No trying. Practice.
Yeah.
But do.
Yeah. So I'm actually curious because when I hear you speak and I'm looking at the situation, it seems like and I'm relating. You see those men, you see how they show up in the world. Mm-hmm. So it's quote unquote external. Mm-hmm. All right. And
you recognize their impact, the impact they have on you and others. That's what you're seeing.
And is that coming to, and what does that do in the inside? Because like, I feel like I need that sort of, like, does that become the motivation to then basically take that as an example of, wow, this is how I can be in the world. this is my mission. It might look different in the terms of like what I'm doing to have that impact, but I want to have an impact, which is as powerful and healthy and loving as, you know, the impact that those men have in that case. Yeah.
Well, the first thing we all have to understand is that we all have an impact. Every human has an impact. Wherever you go, whatever you do, whatever you say, if you leave your house, even if you don't leave your house, you're having an impact on your friends, your neighbors, the world. So we all have an impact on the world. So you get to be in charge of what that is. You get to choose. Like the thing I told you about Trader Joe's, like I do when I go to the store. And hopefully you guys are doing that at Aldi or wherever you guys go shopping, right? So
funny
you
for
can
Germans.
have, you can change somebody's world just by a smile and a glimmer in your eye and act of kindness. Now, I know you Germans don't tip, but we do that in the United States, okay? Now, I've been practicing that here in Germany, and of course, the first reaction is like, the person is like, what are you doing? But then it's like, oh, thank you, danke. Yeah, thank you. You took a moment out of your life, and you took care of me for the last 30 minutes. You served me. That's not a small act. Yeah, you get paid. We all get paid. But you took care of me for that 30 minutes or an hour, or European style, that 3-hour lunch. Like you took care of me. You filled my glass. You brought me the food that I wanted. I asked for something and poof, you materialized it. What the hell is that? Talk about amazing. And then I asked for something else and you went, there, that person's a magician. You ask for things, they do it. That ought to be worth something.
Yeah.
Not just a paycheck. That ought to be worth an act of kindness from me, an act of generosity from me to go, thank you. Because the last hour and a half, 2 hours, you were manifesting something. You were taking the invisible and making it visible for me so that I could live in this moment. I ingested things because of you. And you got, maybe this is your third job today.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how hard they're working for a living, but I don't have to work that hard for a living anymore. I did when I was young, but I don't now. Thank God, right now, I'm not waiting tables. So the least I can do is be generous, tip well. I was in New Jersey a few months ago, out to a lovely dinner, and this man, this Italian restaurant, he was amazing. Like the whole thing. I got it for you. Give me the menu. I'll take care of you. You take care of me. And he took care of me. I tipped him extremely well. I'm not a rich man, but he created that experience. The food didn't. He did. He manifested that whole experience. So he was wearing a wedding ring, so I know he's married. By his age, he's got to have 2 or 3 kids, probably daughters. He's trying to raise a good family. He's trying to teach them right. I'm going to do what I can to take care of that man so that he can take care of his family, so that he can teach them to do what he does, which is create very special moments for people, even in a restaurant. In a restaurant, you can create nirvana if you want to.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time. You can create heaven or hell for anybody, anywhere. He had an impact, an incredible impact on me in that moment. So you can make a difference in everyone's life that you come in contact with wherever you go. And I know Germans are kind of stoic people, and you can smile. You can. See, Germans can smile. You can smile at somebody.
Yeah.
And you can tell a joke, and you can ask how they're doing. It's okay. And it's just what I'm doing is I'm trying to connect that. I talked about my underlying need is for connection. I'm trying to draw that little thread of connection to the souls around me.
Yeah.
And I can do it in tiny little ways.
It sounds like there's like an example, another example, another example, and it's so obvious, like it's hitting in plain sight. It's like, yeah, like you say, it's just, it doesn't take much, but like how it's nourishing you after every single time you do something, how matter how, like you think it's small, but it's so big. And
it's not small. It's never small.
Yeah.
It's never small.
Like what I say is that I have the feeling this is like really changing profoundly how you walk through life by doing quote unquote small things.
Well,
but
that, you know, do random acts of kindness is not, for me, hopefully, is not just a bumper sticker. It's not just a saying. Like, I want to do random acts of kindness all the time. And the kinder I am, the more gentler I am, the more open I am, the more effusive I am, that's what the world reflects back to me. I've been very lucky to travel to a lot of places. I was having a conversation with somebody, and I'm like, everywhere I go, everybody's cool. Everybody's like fun, and they're open, and they're great. The first time I came to Germany, I had all these stories about how Germans were. And they had all kinds of stories about what a long-haired hippie American might be. So we talked about all those. First thing, that's like the first conversation before we started. What are your judgments? What are your projections? What stories have you made up? And we quickly found like that was all BS. Like none of it was true at all. Everybody's warm and open and loving and friendly and kind, and like that's the way it is in the world. Like 97 or so %. There are crazy people out there, and there are people who are damaged and hurt, and like you need to stay away from. There are dangerous people in the world. And the world reflects that back to us, how we're showing up. So why not try to show up cool and nice and sweet and loving and like gracious, humble? And at least it's better for me. I'm like a triple fire Aries. So for the first part of my life, I was like ego, man. It was all about me. I walk in a room. I needed all the attention. I sucked all the oxygen out of the room. And I switched the day I walked into a room at a party, and there was another triple fire Aries in the room, and I watched him behave like I always behaved. And I was like, shit.
Yeah.
That's horrible. That's horrible. I don't want to be that guy. So I like, nope, that's not me. So can I do for others? I want to be helpful. So be helpful. Clean up, sweep, do the dishes. Be helpful.
Yeah.
That's enough. That's enough.
I sometimes think, or you encounter situations where you're on the fence of doing something quote unquote good or sweet or and no matter how small, and it takes a little bit, you know, it takes courage sometimes also.
Sure. Sure. Of course.
So
it takes a lot of courage to put yourself forward.
Yeah. So our lovely camera technician, all hands helper, Tim, and myself, we were at the concert yesterday. And I knew that this artist has something profound about him. I just really like his music. And so we decided to go. And then afterwards we stayed, and yeah, there was a long line of people that wanted to talk to him. So we were a bit on the fence, like, should we wait now that long? And all right. And everybody is like, you know, oh, you're so great, you're so great, you're so great. Like, what is what I am going to say do for this person when I'm like the 50th person saying, you're so great, you're so great, you're so great. All right. Moving forward a little bit. An hour, we were just sitting and we were talking, and we watched the queue get smaller and smaller. And so after an hour or so, we were actually one of the last people. And so we went up to him, and God, was I grateful to have waited
Mm-hmm.
and to bring up the courage to go up to him,
Mm-hmm.
look him in the eye,
Mm-hmm.
and say, thank you for what you just did there.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what he said?
Hmm.
He's like, dude, you have no idea what that does for me right now.
Yeah. He's not doing it.
And
He's not doing it just for the chicks and the money.
no.
He's trying to make an impact, right? So he needs to know that he's making an impact. We need to hear that.
Yeah.
All of us need to hear that.
He was so grateful, and again, something like, do that. Do it again and again and again.
Absolutely. You got to tell people
Somebody
what you
wearing
think.
a nice necklace.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lovely necklace.
Mm-hmm.
As simple as it sounds, I know. It's so beautiful.
And it's challenging too, especially for men to women. I mean, I've been walking streets here and everywhere I go. And there's this, this rule that women can't look a strange man in the eye. So like when we're walking down the street, she has to can't make eye contact. So it's really hard. It's really challenging to have some kind of human connection when there's that fear there, justifiably. So we have to find moments where that fear can drop, and there's a feeling of safety that we can express that I'm not a threat. I'm not dangerous. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just another human on the planet trying to figure out just like you. By the way, that's a lovely coat or nice shoes, or your hair looks great, or you have a beautiful smile, whatever it is. You're really nice. Thank you. Thanks for being a nice person. So hopefully that's why I try to do it in moments that barrier is loosened.
Mm.
The grocery store, the car wash, when I go through TSA at the airport, I always talk to the agents. I always strike up a conversation because I hate authority figures. And so if this guy that I put over here has his way, I'll spend the rest of the day in TSA and I might go to jail. So I got to put another part of myself forward that's like kind and loving and compassionate, because they're 10, 12 hours on their feet.
Yeah.
It's a horrible job.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do that job. So can I love that person just because they're wearing a blue shirt? They have, quote unquote, they can control between me and where I want to get to. They're the gatekeeper. So do I really want to piss off the gatekeeper? Is that really, what kind of impact is that going to have in my life if I upset the gatekeeper? I ain't going to make it to Germany if I upset the gatekeeper. Yeah. So I got to be nice to the gatekeeper. And they usually respond really nicely. And if I crack a little joke, they laugh. They're just people working a job. They probably hate their job just like most people. So why not treat them like a human being? So I can have a positive impact in that moment. 50 people in line are pissed because they're waiting in line. Everybody they talk to is upset. So maybe I can be the one nice person coming through line today. Maybe. I can try.
Yeah.
It hasn't hurt me. Like, I haven't been stopped in a long time. So I can have a positive impact there too, right?
Yeah, keep doing that. Yeah. Would like to see you again.
Hopefully I can make it back.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can make it back.
There's also one story you told, which reminds me of not being able to walk on a street or looking a stranger in the eye. Mm-hmm. I cannot tell the story. I don't remember it fully. Maybe you do. From a conductor, traveled around the world, and you said,
"Oh yeah, he was he did a TED talk, and there was a short documentary made around this man. God, I wish I could remember his name." So he was a orchestra conductor.
Right.
And quite famous one, evidently. And he was talking about what he learned about conducting that had absolutely nothing to do with music. Mm-hmm. And he practiced it. He was in New York, and he practiced it when he walked down the street. He said he could tell how he was being by the eye contact and the looks on people's faces as he was walking down the street. He first learned that being in front of the orchestra. He's trying to do this thing, and if he was really grumpy, or if he was pissed, or if he was having a bad day, the orchestra was immediately responding that back to him. But if he was light and jovial and had love in his eyes, and when he really looked at somebody, like he really made an authentic connection, like they would play completely different. So he got like, oh, who I'm being, how I'm being has an immediate impact on the world. The world responds the second I manifest that. So even though he did it in front of the orchestras as the conductor, he talked about like practicing that in New York, walking down the street and actually taking the risk of looking at people, which nobody does in New York. Like you just don't look at anybody. They did right after September 11th. For about 2 or 3 months, that was brotherhood in that moment. But after that, right back to normal.
Right.
So he takes the risk and he looks at people and he tries to like be light. And people respond. He can tell, oh, there's a little lightness in the eyes. Sometimes they even take a risk and they smile. So who I'm being, how I'm being when I show up has an immediate impact on the world around me. You know, and we can talk about a million different things of why that is, the stories we create, the world we create. But, you know, I think about that. Who am I being right now? How am I being right now? Yeah. Because you're telling me how I'm being by your feedback. It's an immediate mirror.
Yeah, it is.
These aren't receptors. These are projectors. We're projecting all the time. And at least that's what I've learned.
Yeah.
You had a bunch of questions. You want to ask any of your questions?
I snuck them in already. No,
maybe
but I actually don't have. No, I don't have to look. Now with looking in this room and really being so grateful and happy about the sheer diversity of backgrounds as well, and coming together in Germany with all that this comes along with, especially this area here. Actually, to be honest, it's pretty heavy. What went down, Berlin and the bridge. It's 2 minutes away from here, which divided Germany into east and west, and so I wanted to explore a little bit the topic of how that background of each and every one of us does affect us, and what we can do to get to know that part of us, of our ancestry, and how we can learn and heal and integrate from what might, be alive there, whether or not we are aware of it all the time.
Yeah. That came up in the first training I did here years ago, and something that I really wanted to explore and come back and do a lot of work on. I'm sure there's been a lot of truth and reconciliation circles and a lot of healing work done here to try to come to terms with our shared humanity and what humans can do to other humans. We all have the capacity for good and evil. And if we don't all know that we all could be the Auschwitz guard, then we don't know ourselves very well at all. Every single one of us can be that person, or be married to that person, or be feeding that person, or taking care of that person, or bearing the children for that person. We all have that. And if I don't know that about myself in this work we generally call shadow work, the metaphor that I use is a bus, and that I go through life driving a bus. And I got all those disowned parts of myself back there in the bus, the victim, the perpetrator, the screw up, the golden child, every every pathology that you can think of, every hurt, every trauma that I've gone through is back there in that bus, including the tyrant, including the tyrant king. He's back there.
Yeah.
And at any given moment in my life, they're all waiting to come up and they want to drive the bus. And my job, you talked about like trying to be the centered one. My job is try to be kind, loving, gentle, self-actualized person driving bus. But then somebody says something, my partner says something, my boss says something happens to me on the way to work. There's some kind of global catastrophe. Some tyrant rises to power, and I've got to figure out a way to survive. Then those unowned parts of me come up and they start driving the bus. My unconscious is now driving the bus, not my consciousness. And all of it, I believe, all of us have a little tyrant back there. All of us. And our job is to love the tyrant. Just like you said, we talked about last time, everybody here has a basic need to be seen, heard, and loved.
Yeah.
Everybody. So does our little tyrant. Little baby Hitler wanted to be seen, heard, and loved. Underneath all the manifestations, he wanted to be seen, he wanted to be heard, and he wanted to be loved. He just chose really unhealthy ways to get the attention that he wanted. He took his family dynamic that he grew up in and he used it in the world. Didn't turn out really good for anybody, right? So if I know that about myself, then I can approach with a lot of compassion and humility to my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and grandmother and mother, grandmother and great-grandmother, who may have participated in something that was far bigger than themselves, that they thought they could control. So if I can get to a place of love and compassion, then I can get to a place of love and compassion and forgiveness for myself. Because humans have been perpetrating unspeakable acts to other humans from the beginning of time. You guys just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time in human history. Yours is one of the most recent. Of course, there's Rwanda and there's other genocides around the world. But you guys carry a particular wound and trauma that unless you talk about it, you'll continue to carry it around your neck and shoulders. All the men that I spoke to, all these young men said, basically, everywhere I go in the world, I can't tell people I'm German.
Right.
Like, that's pretty screwed. I have to hide the fact that I'm German because of what the stories that people make up about me, but I wasn't even born then. I'm carrying the weight of what my ancestors did. I'm carrying the weight of my fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers. And we always use that term, but our mothers and our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers also participated. Otherwise, it couldn't have happened. Everybody was in the game. So the first thing is to acknowledge that that could be me too. If I had to choose between my family and your family, and my back was against the wall, and we had no food and no water and no shelter, sorry, your family loses. It's real simple. If my little kid was sitting right there, you and your family's going down. We would all choose that. What other choice? Every woman's going to protect her child. She's going to do what she has to do to protect her child. So we have to look at it like there's a saber-toothed cat right outside the door. You're going to do what you have to do to protect your family and your children. And we will bend our morals and we will do what we have to do to take care of our family. That's what we're wired for. That little part way back in the brain is wired for. Survival. Our ancestors did what they had to do to survive on every side of every human conflict. So the first thing is compassion. Second thing is forgiveness. Third thing is understanding. Would I do that? Probably would.
Right.
You don't want to believe you would. You want to believe that you're the superhero and you would do the right thing. I had all kinds of fantasies about hunting down Trump and being the guy that shot him. Like, I took him out. And I knew that I'd spend the rest of my life in jail. But I would do the world, because I drew a through line between Hitler and Trump, and I'm like, somebody has to see this. Somebody has to do something about it. I'll be the guy. Because I know how to do that. I can do that. Luckily, I didn't, and I haven't yet, and I don't think I will.
We have it on tape.
Yeah, exactly. This is not good. I can go to jail for that. So there's a part of me that's that guy. There's also a part of me that goes, okay, if I'm in jail, if I took him out and I'm in jail, did that really serve humanity? Like, there's nothing, he hasn't done anything too horrible yet. So it's like Ricky Gervais. He just did that special. And at some point in time on his special, he was making a joke about Hitler. And he showed a picture of baby Hitler. Like, cute little baby, like this big. Baby Hitler. Very cute, adorable. And everybody's like, oh, guess what? You know?
Yeah.
So we all have to know that we're both. So do I want to feed the part of me that can do harm and have that kind of impact in the world? Or do I want to feed the part of myself that has a positive, loving impact on the world? Knowing that human history's there, it's in my bloodline somewhere. I had to be a perpetrator somewhere in my lineage. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. All of our relatives at some point in time killed somebody for us all to be here. That's the reality. If we go back far enough, we could all go back to the very first cave. Somebody had to take that cave away from somebody else to have the best cave. Had to happen. We're all related to that. So if I can remember that I'm connected in that way, then I can also go, okay, well, I can choose that, or I can choose to be kind and loving and acceptance of myself and accepting of what humans do to other humans. Now, how can I take that wall, that metaphor, the wall that was real? What walls do I put up in my life? What walls do I put up apart from other people? What walls do I put up against myself? Because we can all say, oh no, I'm not a perpetrator. I don't do anything bad to anybody else. Really? I'll call you on that in a second, because I know you say shitty things about yourself. I know you attack yourself for a fact. So you're a perpetrator to somebody. So what can I do to keep breaking the walls in my heart down so that I can sing mantras and I can eat vegetarian food and I can be a kind, loving human being on the planet? Which means I also have to hold that there's beauty and love and peace in one hand, and there's violence and there's tyranny and there's awfulness in the other. I got to know that exists, because it does exist. And part of the weight that your community and your culture has to put down in one way is like, guilt and shame do not serve anyone. You just don't serve.
Yeah.
Like, you can't feel guilty enough or shameful enough to do a good thing in the world. That's not where your superpower comes from. I remember Wayne Dyer, this woman asked him one time, she said, Wayne, with all the pain and the suffering in the world, why you're always talking about being positive and like having this positive outlook, but Wayne, look at this and look at that and look at that. Look at all these terrible things that have happened. And she's starting to weep and, very emotive, connected to all that. Yeah. You can't feel bad enough. There's no way that you can bring up enough sadness in you and compassion for all that to actually to make that into a good thing, to solve that problem. You can't cry enough to solve the problem. You can't grieve enough to solve the problem. Doesn't mean you don't feel the grief, but you can't just keep going into the grief, bad, bad, bad. All these terrible things are happening, like a lot what we're hearing so much in the world today. The sky is falling. Yes, the sky is falling. The sky has always been falling. The end of the world has always been coming. It's never not been coming. We are now just born into a particular time where we got some really cool problems to solve. We have some really good opportunities that we can do something about it. But it's always been the end. Humans love that. We're really addicted to, we're kind of addicted to doomsday scenarios. We always think the world is ending tomorrow or the next week. It's not. It's not. We all have been born in this time, in this moment, that we can do something about it. You now know things that your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfathers didn't know. They knew things you don't. They experienced shit that you have never experienced. They know something about the tenderness of humanity that you'll never know. Hopefully you'll never know. I'm doing a weekend for veterans in a couple of months, and I'm listening to and reading a lot of books about the veterans' experience in war. And they talk about what happens when a man kills another man hand to hand. Like not shooting from a long way away, like me killing you right here, right now. And there's a connection that happens, and what they call it is the ultimate. There's a connection to the moment that they've never found or seen in their life again. And what they describe it as almost as close to the sexual act. So often when they come back home, they become sexual addicts because they're trying so hard to get to that moment again. And that's why so many of them re-enlist and go back, because they can't find that moment of reality that they found in that intense moment. So we have to find ways to create those moments without the act, right?
Yeah.
I can hopefully create sexual union everywhere I go, every time I bend over and smell a flower, every time I look at the sun, every time I look at a cloud, every time I hold someone's hand, when I get a hug from someone, there's a moment that if I'm really present, I'm connected to the transcendent.
Yeah.
Right? And I know you know that. I'm not telling anybody here anything anybody doesn't know already. I can find it here. I can find it in the darkness, quote unquote. I can find it, quote unquote, in the light if I choose. And that's the work that you guys, you men and women, have to do here, is like acknowledge this is what happened. And look what came before World War I. Like all the things that led up to that, why the people made the choices they made. And imagine that you're only going to live 30 and 40 years old. Like life was different then. So they made certain choices. Certain things happened all over the world to create that. And then in less than 20 years, bam, we're back again. And there was reasons for that. So imagine yourself there. You're living in that moment, in that time. You have to make there's never a good choice. You're just having to try to choose the best of two really challenging things often, or three or four challenging things. Yeah. So those people made the best choices they could in the moment. And most suffered. And luckily we put an end, quote unquote, put an end to that so that we could all sit here in peace and have amazing food and running water. And like none of us are going to get shot on the way home, hopefully. Like we're all fine, we're safe. They died for that. Like people came from all over the world to put an end to that so that we could all be here like this. My relatives sacrificed and died in the war so that we could sit here like this. Safe, warm, full. They gave their lives for this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of hopefully the place you guys can get to. It's like, wow, okay, yeah, this happened. And there's this collective, cultural, unconscious thing that we've been holding on to. I guess the first thing that I would want to get to, can I remember remember the lessons and put down the weight of having to carry that anymore. Remember that we don't want to repeat that again. America's like starting to tiptoe down this road of tyranny. You guys have learned this lesson. America's a young country. We're only 250 some years old. We're a child. We haven't learned some of these hard lessons yet. And it's starting to head down. It's getting kind of weird over there and kind of scary. And a lot of people over here are going, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Can you not see what you're doing? We've tried this. It doesn't work. Not so good.
Yeah.
So can you guys find a way to love them? Love your ancestors. They did the best they could in the moment. They all made choices. You may or may not agree with their choices. Most of humanity didn't agree with their choices. But they were humans trying to survive.
Yeah.
And if I can look at it from that perspective, then I can love them and forgive them, and then turn that mirror back to myself. Can I love myself and forgive myself that I'm here and I have to carry, quote, I've been told I have to carry that weight, or I've just accepted it. Somehow I picked it up. And a lot of this work we do, people pick up things from their mother, their father, their culture. They don't know they're carrying. They don't even know they have it. So often we get to that place letting go, and then they realize, that wasn't mine. That was shit. That was my grandmother's. Yeah, that was your grandmother's. You never knew you picked that. No, I never knew I picked that. I didn't even know I was carrying that. Right. It's not yours. You weren't born with that. You were not born with the weight of World War II on your shoulders. You didn't come into this world with that. You learned that. That was, you either absorbed it or it was put on you. My invitation is to find a collective loving way to give back and put back what is no longer yours. Go to the graves of your fathers, go to the graves of your grandfathers, and give it back. They don't want you to carry that. That's not what they want for you. I don't believe that in a second. It's not what they died for. So give it back to them so that you can live like this, right? We can live like this. Without that, we got other things to carry. We got other problems to solve. We can't solve a problem that happened, 50, 60, 70 years ago. We can't. But we can work together to solve the problems that are happening right here, right now, and for the future. That's where we need to concentrate our efforts, I believe. Remember what happened. Know that that's me too. I'm that. And I'm also the person that unlocks the gate. I'm also the rescuer. Let me bring some food. Let me bring water. Let me bring clothes. I'm that guy too. And that's obviously, for me, that's the path. I want to dig that groove really deep. I want to walk up and down that path a lot and let my inner tyrant that keeps me from doing that keeps me in my jail, that keeps me from being my loving, kind, brilliant self, that keeps repeating those same bullshit stories. I want to let him out, because I got that tyrant in there that tries to keep him locked up. I want to be able to let that part of myself out of the jail. Right. And I've never met a human that doesn't do that. Everybody does it in their own way. My friend does it with her ankles. Remind me your name again, sweetheart? Lisa. Lisa does it in her ankles. She's got to go pee now, though. Yeah. It's a bio break. We've been talking a long time. Go take care of yourself, sweetheart.
I completely lost track.
Sorry, that was I talked a lot there.
No.
It was a big diatribe.
No, it's very beautiful. And for me, what's coming up so much is that, while actually my grandparents, except my one granddad, they're all dead. Mm-hmm. I can just see it in my parents very directly.
Absolutely.
And so just do what I can.
I I have an offer.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
it's reminding me of my shortcomings. Let's just
your
put me that way.
shortcomings. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, we can go to your shortcomings. I'm sure we can spend all night on your shortcomings.
In my beautiful home.
In your beautiful home. No, we're not going to do that. So that's part of your guilt and your shame. So that you got to let that go. So do you have an altar to your parents here somewhere? Do you have their pictures up? Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents?
No.
Okay. So everybody, I have an altar at home. It's split. Well, my whole home is an altar, but one specific area is the ancestor altar. And luckily, this beautiful Chinese cabinet that I have has a shelf. And above the shelf is all my ancestors who are dead that I have pictures of that I can find. Below the shelf are all the people that are still alive in my life. Okay? Every picture that I can find of every one of my ancestors is in that altar, including some people and deities that I like to pray to. And I light candles, and they have a place in my home. They belong here. Your ancestors aren't gone. Right now, as I look at your eyes, I'm talking to your dad. I'm talking to your grandfather. Not only am I talking to the little wounded parts of you, but your ancestors are looking at me right now, having this conversation that they never ever thought they would have with a long-haired California person. Like, they just never dreamed that that was even possible. But they're here with us. We're looking through their eyes everywhere we go. Your mother, your father, your grandmother, grandfather is looking through you everywhere you go. So they need a place in our home, on your land, wherever you build an altar for your ancestors and the ancestors. Okay? You build that. And that will, our friend does family constellation work. In that work, every energy has a place, and anything that's excluded from the system manifests through somebody generationally. So everything in the system for that healthy system to be healthy and whole has to be represented. Again, the things we hide, repress, and deny show up somewhere. Usually in a generation or two, it skips, and that thing, whatever that was, pops up in that person. Yeah. This person commits suicide. This person's bulimic. This person terrible with money. You know, like those unhealed wounds can continue to pop up all the time through our lives in our family systems. So create a altar in the home. Yeah. So that you can look at dad and you can look at mom and you can look at grandma. They're there, and you can go and you can look at them and say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for loving each other enough to manifest a child. I'm looking at your father right now. That's who I'm talking to. Thank you for loving your wife enough to manifest a child who could create this. That's what they did. We can create all kinds of stories of what our parents did, right or wrong, but the fact of the matter is that at some point in time, every one of your relatives did something right. They kept themselves alive long enough to mate, and then kept their offspring alive long enough for that person to mate. So whatever stories we tell about our father and our mother and how terrible they were, we go back. Trust me, your whole family lineage are heroes and warriors and queens. They did everything right because you're sitting here. Yeah. Regardless of the mistakes they made, they did incredible things to make it possible for you to be here right now. They sacrificed everything for you to be here right now. So I owe it to them to look them in the eyes and say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm not here without them. We're not having this conversation without your ancestors, good, bad, or ugly. Mm. Yeah. So we need to thank them because we have this. Look at your beautiful home. Jesus, have you seen the size of your bathroom? We could do this whole thing in your bathroom, bro. So that alone speaks like, Life is good. That's a hell of a shower. I love that shower. Life is good. We can turn a knob. There's some kind of mystery in the universe where we can walk in a room, we can hit a switch, poof, it goes from darkness to light.
Yeah.
I can walk over and I can turn a knob, water magically appears. But I don't like the temperature of that water, so I turn another knob and I get the temperature of water I actually want.
Yeah.
If we just take a minute to realize how amazingly privileged every human on the planet, about 94% are, pretty good. Pretty good deal. 400 trillion to one that were actually even born. Most humans are never born. We are a select few humans that get to be on the planet and to actually live, to breathe, to love, to eat, to make love, to have pets and cats and experience this thing. So few humans actually get this opportunity. It's an extraordinary opportunity. And it's just like that long.
Yeah, it is.
So you want to heal your past? Build an altar to mom and dad, grandma, grandpa. Light candles, light sage. Thank them. Okay? Thank them. And forgive them. And remind yourself that you're not going to make, if they were involved in that, you're going to choose, if you can, if you're lucky enough and there's not a gun to your head, you're going to choose differently. And you may not have that choice. Maybe somebody's going to knock on your door one day. And the boots are going to come in and the guns are going to be here. And you're like, all my choices just went out the window except to try to save myself and my family. That's my choice now. And that could happen like that. So every day, let's be good people. Let's be kind people. Let's be generous people. Let's tip well. Let's be kind to everybody we meet. Maybe they're going to be the guard one day for me and they'll remember, oh, you were that guy that left that $100 tip at the restaurant that time. Come over this way. I got a way out for you.
Yeah.
If we're lucky. So that's the kind of have that kind of impact. So what I believe is if we can do that, then we won't get to that place where we're repeating the past again. Because we're constantly impacting each other with love and kindness and tenderness. We see the humanity in others. We're not othering everybody all the damn time. That's what's happening so much in the United States right now. Other. We're going backwards. If we remember with loving kindness what our parents and our grandparents struggled for us to be here, we won't go backwards. We'll remember, right. Yeah, 10 generations ago, yeah, there were slaves and there were slave owners, but here right now, that's not here. We actually fought a war to stop it. We stopped it. We said, that's not a good thing. Let's stop that. And hundreds of thousands of people died to stop it, to put an end to it. So we don't repeat that. Yeah. We don't have to repeat those mistakes. And we can forgive. If we let them off the hook, the sooner I let my mother and my father and my grandfather off the hook, the sooner I can let myself off the hook. And I can breathe a little. And then that creates space in my shoulder for love and kindness and tenderness, create space for this. So let them off the hook. Let them off the hook.
Yeah.
People should talk now. They've been sitting a long time, if they want to talk. Long time.
I agree, yeah.
They've been very patient.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. Really appreciate talking to you.
I appreciate it too.
And listening to you. Not talking so much. So, so I would very much like to open up the conversation.
If anybody wants to, they may just want to go home. It's late.
I want to go home, yeah.
But
yeah,
whatever you wish. What do you want to do? Your hands are up. You're stretching?
No, I have many questions.
You have any questions? You should get the microphone over to her so that people listening to this can hear the questions. And do me a favor, so everybody out there knows who everybody is, say your name first, and then have your question.
Thanks. All right. Hi, Vince. I'm Roxanne.
Hi, Roxanne.
Hi.
You were the first person I had a lovely conversation with when I got here.
Lovely.
You're very
Thank
sweet.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Roxanne.
You. I have so many questions after that very long and inspiring and informative talk.
A lock.
But I'm really interested. You've been working a while now, as I understand, with mainly young men from Germany, and I'm interested in how this ancestral trauma and energy manifests in our young men today in Germany.
Well, a lot of the men, I don't work with a lot of young men. I'm involved in two different organizations. One is the Mankind Project, and I do some training for them. Their demographic tends to be 30-ish to 60-ish range. I'm also doing work now, much more work with an organization called Sacred Sons. And their demographic, I would say, is 18 to 30. What I can speak to my experience with the men that I have been with here in Germany, 7 or 8 trips now, I suppose, something like that. Outwardly protective, stoic, within minutes of actual connection, openness and kindness and love. Like it's right there, right on the surface. And what I miss in doing men's work is you being there so that you can actually see what men do when we're together, so that you can see how much men cry, so that you can see how we laugh, so that you can see the intimacy that we have with each other. I can only talk about what I see in real young men in the United States. I can't speak to what's going on in Germany. But that proverb that I gave you that actually comes from Africa, which is, if we don't initiate the boys, they'll burn the village down just to feel the heat. And I can't imagine that this is different anywhere else. Young men are, especially when their youth and their adolescent kicks in, have more testosterone running through them than they will have in their entire life. And that usually equals energy. They got to do something with the energy. And because they're not working on a farm, because they're not trained as a welder or a woodworker, or maybe, unfortunately, if they don't have a sports outlet where they can like burn this energy off, they'll find ways to do it. Look at all the graffiti everywhere, the destruction, broken windows. Like they're going to find some way to manifest the energy. But and they will initiate each other, gang initiation. You come with us, because there's no older men keeping an eye on him. So what do they have? They have people just like them. Lost, confused, fatherless, leaderless. So it becomes like a Lord of the Flies thing, right? So they're just, what they're looking for is to be seen and heard and loved. And the only way they know how to get that is to be rude, to take up space, and to destroy shit, to get attention. They're just trying to get attention. And what they want attention from is guys like me, because they want us to step in front of them and then go, knock that shit off right now. Stop it. And to like be solid, because everything in their life is loose. Forgive me, women, I'll probably piss most of you off. They've been mothered way too much, way over compassion, because there's been no men to pluck them out and to teach them what the men's world looks like. So everything in their world is soft and pliable. It's movable. There's no walls. There's no trees. There's no rocks. There's nothing solid for them to lean up against until they meet somebody, until they meet a cop. That's solid. The law is solid. So they meet that wall. Or they meet each other. And they try to prove to each other how solid they are. But what they're longing for is guys like me to show up. and go, you can yell and scream and go on and on as much as you want and break the fucking windows all day long, bro. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to abandon you like your dad did. I'm not going to leave you like every other man in your life has done. I'm not going to tell you you're bad, but I am going to question your choices. Grow the fuck up. That's what we're doing here. This is what we're doing this weekend. We're growing up. And you will not run me off. I will love you through this. And usually by Saturday or Sunday, we're both in tears. Yeah. And they finally start to let it go. And they finally realize there's somebody in the world that loves them enough not to leave them. They don't want to be left anymore. They've been left and abandoned by every man that they've ever known. There's nothing for them to hold on to. And that's what the collection of men do. That's why the uncles and the brothers and the elders show up. Fathers cannot initiate their sons. That's what the community's job is for. And these young men have no male masculine community to look to for guidance so that they can know how to walk into a room and shake your hand and be polite and get you a chair, open the door for you. Get up off their ass on these trains and let a woman sit down, especially an old person, an old man or a woman. I see it all the time. There's old people standing and there's young guys sitting here on their phone. What the fuck? It's not that they don't care. No one has ever taught them these skills. Yeah. No one's teaching them. Yeah. It's not that they don't, they're just ignorant. You know, from the Buddhist perspective, 90% of this is just ignorance. We don't know. They don't know. So all that angst, all the anger, all the fear, they're scared to death. They're terrified that this is the way the world is and that they'll never be loved, they'll never be seen, they'll never be taken care of by anyone. It's fear. So for men, if you imagine a bottle, a water bottle, the cork and inside the water bottles are emotions. For men, the cork is anger. That's what keeps all the guilt, the shame, the grief, the sadness in the bottle. So our portal to our feelings is often anger, and this often scares women because as soon as a man gets angry, you go to your father wound. Oh my God, Dad's mad at me. It's very difficult oftentimes for when men and women work together. If a man does work in his anger, all the women in the room get triggered as hell. It has nothing to do with the man. It has to do with your relationship with your father. Okay. But for us to get to guilt, shame, grief, we have to go through the portal of anger. In my experience working with women, it's exactly the opposite. You have to start in grief and sadness, tears, 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 and then poof, here comes the anger. Now the anger gets to come out and play, right? Well, these young men, they're just scared, man. They have you can't do this. A woman's job is not to do this. You're done. You're done at 7, 8, 9. You're done. There's nothing else you got for them. They have to have a masculine influence by 10. And really, from a psychological perspective, if they aren't trained to play and integrate with other children by the age of 4, they're screwed. Because they don't know how to play well with others. And if you can't play well with others, you can't work well with others, and you can't come to a place like this and be in society healthfully. Those are all the guys in prison, men and women in prison, that all started at 2, 3, and 4. They never were able to do this safely for themselves. Yeah. Yeah. So you need, like in the United States, we have, the Boys Club. We have an organization that came out of the Mankind Project called Boys to Men. So it's a mentorship program that men do, and I know you guys have it over here. The Sacred Sons, that organization that I'm involved with, they've now started a youth mentoring program called Sacred Sons, S-O-N-Z. And we take young boys 13 to 18. And we mentor them. We teach them how to be men. What's it like to be in a man's body in the world, and what's expected of you? How to be with each other and how to be in the world. That's not your job. That's my job. That's our job, the men in this room's job. And if that's not happening, again, that energy is going to find a way. And it's usually not good. They'll burn the village down. They'll create havoc and hell everywhere they go because they're screaming, see me, hear me, love me. That's what they're saying. They're just doing it in the only way they know how to do it. So if you can, when you see that behavior, if you can take a moment, that's why I said one of the tricks I use in working with people is I'm looking at you, but I'm actually looking at the 5 and 7 and 10-year-old, because that's what's really speaking. So when you see those young boys, look younger, look down, look at the little one. When did dad leave? Or, you know, if dad was there, what's going on? Almost always stepdads can almost always abusive. Like the statistics are way over the top. So look at them as a wounded child and try to find some way to have enough compassion to look beyond the behavior to, okay, what can I do to influence this person or bring somebody into their life to help them? He's not bad. He's not wrong. He's not rotten. He's not broken. He's not damaged. He just needs some guidance. That's all he needs. He needs a compass. He needs somebody to say, see that arrow? That way. That's the direction we're going. Okay? This is where we're going. That's all he needs. Show me the direction. And then we show them that by how we show up. We keep our appointment. We're accountable. We're responsible. I do what I say I'm going to do. I show up on time. I keep my promises. They're like, oh, I don't lie, I don't cheat, I don't steal, I don't do all those things. So we become the living embodiment of what masculinity is in the world. So he can test it and feel what that might be for him, whatever that looks like. Yeah. But there's the ground. We're trying to put some ground under them. They just don't have any grounding right now. And that's our job, is to help them develop strong enough legs to stand on the earth strong.
Yeah. I can relate to everything that you're saying. I mean, I have a lot of men in my life that are very close to me. I have a younger brother and a partner and many male friends. Do you feel like there's a typical time in a young man's life where they're ready for guidance? Or is that something that you find is difficult for young men to kind of move into?
It's not a job. It's not a young man's job to move into it. Somebody has to show the way. Otherwise, we have Peter Pans. We have men who are 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, you know, who can't be in a steady relationship if they are the serial cheaters. They care about money. They're not here really with you. You provide a service to them. You're a cook and a prostitute. That's your job. They really only care about themselves. So until that man gets beyond his ego state and that he's just in the planet for himself, until he makes that transition, he will always stay a little kid. We don't really want to have to work that hard. Most guys don't. We just kind of want to have fun. We want to be Peter Pan. We want to go to Treasure Island, right? You make us grow up because you basically are the gatekeeper. If I want a relationship, if I want to be in partnership, I have to change, because otherwise you will not want me. That's usually what makes most men have to shift, because they fall in love with somebody and you're 5 to 10 years more emotionally mature than any man you're going to meet easily. And he either has to step up and match you. If he didn't have a good father figure, or if he didn't grow up in a culture that basically initiated him into manhood, into a way of being, you end up kind of doing that by proxy. But it's not a good initiation. It's not a proper one. It's not. You're never going to be satisfied because he's doing it for you, and you want him to do it for him. So you'll never, ever, ever be happy with that. You want him to want to do it, but he won't unless somebody comes and gets him. Or like in my case, all of a sudden, I somehow started shifting. New people started coming in that were living in a way, manifesting a way of being that I went, that's what I want. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to articulate what this is I'm looking at. But whatever this was, It's the closest thing. When I was a boy, I think about 4, 5, 6 years old, it was about the time The Good, the Bad, the Ugly came out with Clint Eastwood's late 60s, early 70s. And my parents used to love to go to the drive-in. And you drive, did you guys have drive-ins in Germany? Do you know what a drive-in is? Cinema, drive-in cinema? Yeah, you sit in your car in a big, huge screen, right? 40-foot screen, right? Well, Clint Eastwood's tall already, but Clint Eastwood on a screen in The Good and Bad, the Ugly was gigantic, and I was only like this big. Something in my brain like went, that is a man, and that's what I want to be like. That's who I want to be when I grow up. All young men are looking for that. And they cannot get it from a mother. They cannot get it from the feminine.
That kind of brings me into my last question before I'll pass it on. But is there anything that you can recommend or just give advice to young women who might have sons one day into supporting them to move into that type of a space? And I know that you mentioned, that a lot of men are mothered, and I see that with in our family dynamics, and I see myself take that on in my personal life with a lot of people as well, as an oldest daughter, with my siblings and also in partnerships. But kind of, pushing that aside or putting that aside and coming from a more helpful, lucrative space and energy. Is there anything that any advice you could give?
Sure. Well, first of all, you're born to be compassionate. You are the mother. I mean, that's what Mary represents, the ultimate compassion, right? So that's what you are on earth. You are that. So part of the thing that Mary did, she knew her son was going to die. But she gave her son to humanity, knowing that. That's what you have to do. You have to be able to give your son to humanity, knowing he will be broken. He will get punched in the face. You cannot protect him from that. In fact, that's the only thing that will make him stronger, that will allow him to become his fullest, is you letting go. You have to surrender him to us, to the world. This is why we have what Freud discovered was the Oedipal syndrome. This is why we have Hansel and Gretel, the devouring mother. Johnny, you never have to leave. I'll love you. You're my man. I'll love you forever. Happens all the time. What did she just do? She just took away his masculinity. She does it to her husband. She does it to her son. She does it to all her children. So he goes through the rest of his life knowing that mommy's always there. I'll always love you, baby. You're mommy's man. Holy shit. So when your son is about somewhere between 5 and 7, you got to start stepping back. And you don't want to, because he still looks like a little boy. He is a boy. He's a boy. But you got to let him fall. You got to let him climb the trees. You got to let him crash his bicycle. You got to let him hurt. He has to understand that there are things in the world. He has to test his body. Men have to test their space. That's why part of the reason we die younger. We have a need to get to the edge of reality. And that's how we know our limit. If I know how violent I can be, I know where to keep my sword, especially when I'm in the presence of a young damsel. But if I don't know how violent I can be, I'm going to take my violence out on you, especially if my mother was a devouring mother. What do you think I'm going to do to you when I meet you at a club? I'm going to eat you alive. This is where women complain about the toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity does not come from men. I'm sorry, ladies. You create that. That's your manifestation. Why? Because you never let him grow up and you didn't teach him what a proper young man was. So he needs your help and he needs our help so that those wounds, because we're all going to get wounded, we're all going to get cut growing up, can be healed right. So your job is to not do this with him, not grasp. You do this in the beginning. Your job is to grasp him from, conception to 5, 6, 7, 8, hold, keep him alive, right? And then switch from holding to this. Just have an open nest. Be this way with him. And when he's doing shit that really scares you at that point, try to do that. I know you care and I know you don't want him to hurt. I know that. He's got to fall off the skateboard. He's got to get lost in the store. He has to. If I can't get lost, how am I going to find my way? How am I going to know I can find my way on my own in the world? Otherwise, I'm going to go, Mommy, I'm 55, 60, 70 years old. Mom, what do I do if... Really? I know guys like this. They've never left home, really, ever. Mom is still the most important woman in their world, and they're married and they have daughters. Are you kidding me? What? Of course I love my mom, but the number one? And I have a wife and daughters and granddaughters? That is sadly in the wrong order. We have to get that in the right order. And that's how you set the right order up. And hopefully if you're not married, if he doesn't have a positive male role model in his life, you get him into organizations and places where there are positive male role models very early. That's part of his world. He doesn't get to choose. He goes. This is what he does. Okay? No choice. Because if he chooses, it's Peter Pan. I'll stay at home. How many 30, 40, 50-year-olds we got right now living in their parents' basement watching porn and playing video games? Failure to launch. Never left home. Can't even have a conversation with a woman. Terrified. The world's full of them right now. It's getting worse. So that's part of your job, is to allow them space to launch. You can't keep them here forever. You can keep him in your heart. He'll always be your baby boy. My 35-year-old son, when I look at him, I'm still seeing this. Trust me. Bloody, brand new, just out. That's my baby boy. He's bigger than I am in every way. But when I look at him, I see this. I have to let him go. I had to let him go to be a man. Carried him as long as I could, and it's his job to fly. So I have an overbearing mother inside of me. She's one of the ones in the bus that I have to really keep an eye on, because she's way over the top caretaking, compassionate. And she will emasculate every man and woman and child in the room. Let me do that. I got that. I love it. Have you eaten? Have you not? She drives me nuts, and she's drove my son nuts for years, till I finally learned to put her away. Okay? So, long-winded answer, let him go. Surrender him to us. Otherwise, he won't make it.
Thank you, Vince.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow, it's a lot of talking, isn't it? Good Lord, you are all very kind and patient people. You can say one thing about the Germans and the French and everybody else here. You're very patient. You're patient.
Vince, my name is Dagmar.
Yeah.
And I would love to have your insights, your philosophy. How do you think a healthy relationship between man and woman, how does it looks like, act like? And listening to you, it sounds like we will need generations to get back to a healthy manhood and a healthy womanhood. Mm-hmm. I totally agree. It's not that I don't think it's that way. What do you think? How can we get to these steps? There's one is the ideal world. How is it in a healthy, wonderful relationship, both of them? And then there are these steps, and it will take generations. So how can we go this way in the right dynamic, because we have to take the steps. We cannot go just 1 to 10.
Do you want my 12-step book on how to build a right relationship thing? Is that what you're looking for?
Oh,
God almighty.
I didn't know
I think,
that.
Dagmar, I'm the wrong person. In one respect, I'm the wrong person. I've been married and divorced twice and have been in several relationships. And I'm a good person because I'm trying and over and over and over again to do this right. I know I have one more marriage in me, and that'll be it, and I'll stay married for the rest of my life. What have I learned? I can't give you the steps, although like everybody else, I should probably write that book, but smarter people than me have written that book. We both have to do our work, first of all. It's not just about men becoming aware of themselves and their stories and their behavior. It's you doing your work too. Women are not perfect. We like to think they are, but that's not really true. We all know that that's not true. So ideally, both people are on doesn't have to be the same trajectory, but are on some kind of path of self-knowledge and self-awareness, working on being the best possible version of themselves they can be. That's my job, to be the best version of myself I can be. That's first. The second is, most people ask, and you ask the question because you're trained better than most people. Most people are like, how can I find Mr. Right or Mrs. Right? And of course, that's the wrong question. How can I be Mrs. Right or Mr. Right? That's the proper question. How can I be that? So I was talking to a young man yesterday. He's 23 and he's getting ready to maybe get out of a relationship, because what he's realizing as he's maturing and actually getting involved in men's work already at 23, he's starting to discover what his values are, that he has values. And what he's realizing is that he and his partner do not have the same values. So we have to find a way. We have to know that we share some things in common, not just laughter, not just good sex, not just attraction, that there are some fundamental things inside of us that like we both believe in, and that we both have a common maybe dream or trajectory in the world. I know for me to be with somebody, they're going to have to be somebody like me who wants to be in service and wants to make the world a better place. Otherwise, we're not going to be compatible. And then everything that's ever fallen apart that I've ever seen in any relationship comes down to communication, that we're not communicating. So what processes or practices can I build into my world, that we build into our world together, that facilitate open, honest, raw, vulnerable communication, non-judgmental communication, really good, compassionate listening. Like I come to you and I look at you, Dagmar, and I look deeply into your left eye, because that eye is closest to the heart, and I say, Dagmar, I really want to hear you. I really want to get what you're saying. So would it be possible if we slowed down just a little bit, and would it be okay that I pause you once in a while so that I can repeat back what I think I heard? Would that be okay? Like that alone could save 90% of the marriages in the world. You actually getting your underlying need, most likely in the top 3 of most women, top 5 would be understanding. Do you actually understand me? So if I lead with, I want to see you, I want to hear you, I really want to get what you're saying, I want to hear you and understand you, and you actually feel like I mean that, because I do, and then I sit here and I listen to what you need to say to me, and some of it might be hard, maybe not, I don't know. And then, like, if we can do that reciprocally to each other, that's not quite the right word, but it's something like that. If we can reciprocate with each other, that ought to solve most problems. We can actually communicate with each other. and then a little kindness and compassion. All of those are the doorway to great sex. Most people want to start with great sex and then somehow get to that place. But if we have all of this, the intimacy is going to be off the charts. That's what I would say right now that I think works in my experience.
Yes, totally. Well, maybe my question was a little bit different.
Did I answer the wrong question? You asked a different question?
Yes.
Okay, let's try again.
It's
all of that
fantastic.
greatness was the wrong answer. I got the question wrong. So let's try again.
No, but it's still
I'll practice.
It's fantastic because I think a lot of people need to hear that. So that's why I really love the answer. My question was more probably how can I help to guide people?
Oh, how can you help people in their relationships?
I mean, it's more about generational thing. I mean, if I do the one-to-one thing, that's exactly the way you describe it. But now, when I see all the different generations, people are so different. Also, when I'm in a different country, people come from a different background. You know, there's so many things in one person, and
right.
So for me, it's like, how can we see different generations, different people, but bring them back to humanity? And even though, you know what I mean, it's so it has something to. I have to have the vision. That's why I said steps, but I don't mean step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean how to have this vision, and then how to guide everybody through it. From your point of view. Of course, I have ideas about it, but
right.
because it's so interesting how you put the things, and you put it together.
What I think I hear you say is that in your life and in your practices, you're dealing with lots of people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different experiences, different ages,
Yes.
and you have a want, you have a need. Your profession is to guide them from one place to another. You're like a Sherpa, what I would call a psychic Sherpa. You're helping them get from here to there.
Yes.
Pain and suffering to not pain and suffering. Is that?
To grow.
To learn, to be different.
Transform,
right.
yeah.
So here's what I would tell you. You want advice, yes?
I just want to hear your vision, because I
right.
like your.
All right.
You put so many things from your world together.
Here's where I've gotten to be the best facilitator I can be. I let go of outcome. It's not my job to fix anybody. It's not my job to get them from one place to another, ever. I am just going to be present, and I'm going to follow them where they want to go. So I'm going to use questions like, tell me more. What's that like for you? I'm not from where you are. Say more about that. And they're going to go on whatever journey they're going to go on. So if I can take the weight off of myself that I have to fix or do or be or help them get from pain and suffering or from ignorance to knowledge, I just need to be empty and present. Be the hollow tube, be the reed, be the breath, be the reed. It's a Sufi poem. I don't know if it was Rumi or Hafiz. Be the hollow tube that the breath of God blows through. Be empty. And create a space for them to find their way. And you just ask really good questions. And it's usually just simple as, tell me more. What's that like? Simple questions. And let them be the discoverer of their journey inside them, because they already know. Your job is just to create a space, a safe space for them to let the knowing come up. Because you all know what you need to do. We all know what we need to do.
Yes.
Hopefully we come to people to help. Most people come to things like this or weekends that I do. It's the Stoic thing. There's a big rock in the road. And there's a book called The Obstacle is the Way. There's an obstacle. I'm here. I want to be there. I keep trying to get there. I can't get there. And I don't know what to do. That's very common in the human experience pretty much everywhere. But deep down inside, they do know. So my hope, my want, is to be curious, to the best of my ability, create a quote-unquote safe space, to be curious and ask good questions, and to let go of the need to fix, heal, right any wrongs, and especially young men in this work who are starting to do facilitation work and see how powerful it can be. There's this tendency to always want to hit a home run, to like have this person have this huge cathartic moment. And while that happens sometimes, it's best to like be like a hummingbird. It's best to get knowledge little bits at a time versus through a fire hose. I think we learn better over time if we get that self-realization in stages, not all at once, because it can be overwhelming. Like when the big moments come, it can be a lot. And then there's a lot of integration time that needs to happen after that. So a little bit, I let myself off the hook and go just a little. The fact that they showed up here, that's a win. They came to see me. Bless you. You came to a weekend. They came to see you. That's a win. Today's done. Thank you for showing up on time. Have a great day. Done. You made it. For some people, that's enough. You know, some people want to hit a home run every time they go see their therapist, and it's like, if you could have hit a home run every time, you'd have done it by now. So what is the thing? Well, the thing, you got to get out of your own way, and there's work that we can do to help that. But for you, I would, be kind and gentle on yourself. Take really good care of yourself, because you're having these energies come to you all the time.
That's a good one.
You got to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself first. If you're not taking care of yourself, you can't serve anybody else. There's this, there's the wounded healer whole archetype where we hurt ourselves and we damage ourselves while trying to be in service to the greater good. Doesn't serve. You're not helping anybody by that. So you first, mind, body, soul, all of it, best as you can, be as integrated as possible. Then be empty. I know you have skills. I have tools. I got a lot of tools. You got tools to help people. But when they come, let things come till you're really sure that you got the right tool, or what is the right tool. Maybe you don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I do it, the way you describe it.
Good.
It's very interesting what you just said, that a lot of people want the big one. I know that.
Yeah.
And I totally have your philosophy that what's right is what's showing up today.
Yep.
Sometimes for me, it's not difficult to understand that and to guide people through that. It's more the expectation of people. Sometimes this is what they want. And even if I explain some so-called little steps are sometimes the big steps, a lot of them, they cannot accept this. So
that's their part of their work.
Yeah.
And, part of our work is to affirm the fact that they got here. Yes, I'll just use this as an example. Yes, you were a drug addict. Yes, you were an alcoholic. Bless you. Thank you for that. Because if you wouldn't have done that, if you hadn't chose that road, you wouldn't be here right now. That kept you alive to this point. Because if you'd have done something else, you probably would have killed yourself. So that's the first thing, is just like honor the path. And that the fact that you're here right now, honor. And if you can show that, eventually they can do that for themselves, maybe. because that's the hardest thing, is the self-love, right? The self-love is the hardest thing to get to, from here to here. And so if you can do that and affirm that to them, bless you for this, bless you for that, I appreciate that. Like in relationships, if we start with appreciation, 8 to 10 appreciations to every complaint, lots of appreciation. This is how we train a dog. This is how we train a horse. You don't affirm the bad behavior. You affirm every time they even take a minute step in the right direction. You affirm that. And they're like, you just gave me a treat. I leaned slightly to the left. Oh, got another one. Right? Same work in relationship. You want your husband to do the dishes. If he even gets close to the sink, give him a treat. I'm serious. It's very simple. Pat him on the butt, give him a kiss. Oh, honey, thanks for being here. And if he takes another step a little bit closer to the dishes, a little more. If he actually gets his hands in there and gets wet and does the dishes, love him up. Guess what? Men are real simple. Oh, I get treats for doing the dishes. I'll do dishes. I got a guy I was working with. He had promised his wife to clean the bathroom. This was part of their agreement. They had agreements. This is really important with men. Agreements, because agreements go to responsibility and accountability. He made an agreement with his wife that he would clean the bathroom. Hadn't cleaned the bathroom in 6-8 months. And he's like, we're not getting along well. We're like all this stuff. And I'm like, bro, you just don't understand women, clearly. Every man in her life has broken an agreement, and now you're her husband and you're breaking an agreement. What do you expect? Of course you're not having sex right now. You're not cleaning the fucking bathroom. Clean the bathroom consistently. She never has to ask. She never has to bring it up. She doesn't have to think about it ever, because every time she walks in there, it rocks. It shines. She can smell the soap. Makes her happy. Right? You want to have sex? Clean the bathroom. Keep your agreements. Whatever the agreements are. Never have her remind you to take out the trash or clean up the dog poop in the backyard or any of the things that you said you would do. Do them. And as soon as he does that, you also, part of your job then is to affirm him. Men need affirmation. I need you to tell me I'm a good boy. That's where it comes from. You need to remind me I'm a good boy. I'm doing a good thing. Yes, I'm a man, and I want you to grab my ass, and I want you to kiss me and hold me and do all that. But deep down in here, the 5-year-old needs to be reminded, I'm a good boy. I'm doing the right thing. That's part of your job. Affirm him when he does the right thing. Don't remind him. Don't come in every day and go, honey, you haven't done the dishes again. This place is a mess. It sucks. That is not the good way to get your partner to do anything you want them to do. Honey, I so love it when you put gas in the car. I never have to think about putting gas in the car. Thank you for that. Trust me, it goes in the thing. Always keep the gas full. Okay, I got that. Car's always going to be full because it makes you smile. It makes you laugh. That's what I want. When I come home and I see that smile right there, Dagmar, that's what I love. Women think men love all these things. That's not what we love. We love that look when we come through the door. Or when we go out to a dinner date and you look over the table and you give me that look. That's what we're hungry for. Everything else is icing on the cake. So support him every time he does something good. And then, if you need that, ask him for that too. Ask him for what you need. I know we're deviated from you helping those other people, but back to the relationship thing. That's what I got for the moment.
Thank you.
There's a saying? Give me the saying. I love sayings.
If a man makes you soup, you go eat the soup.
Right. You eat the soup, right? I mean, that's what we do. When you bring us a meal, whether we like it or not, we eat the meal.
Yeah.
Even if it's horrible. Like, we eat the meal.
Yeah, but that's really
Because you
true.
took the time to do that, right? So A bowl of soup is not a bowl of soup.
Yeah, but it's
A bowl of soup
important-
is love.
It's important to see that like men are super vulnerable on the emotional side.
Totally.
But women are this kind of vulnerable on the embodiment side. So
Absolutely.
for women, there was always this huge fear of actually rape. Or,
Yeah, sure. Of course. You're physically vulnerable to
Yeah.
us. We're stronger than you.
How
Of course.
I'm not sure how to say it in English, probably. Missbrauch, abuse.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there's this huge fear of abuse. So
Of course.
what
Yep.
feels for us, for women, what men maybe not can understand on this level so hardcore is if we are getting touched in a wrong way. But on the other side, what hurts for men, the same way what hurts for women on a physical body feeling wise is actually the words that we speak
The emotional
to
side.
men.
Absolutely.
And it's
Do you
how
get-
we speak to our men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know of a woman by the name of Allison Armstrong? Do you know this name?
No, I don't.
I highly recommend it for every man, woman, and well, we don't have any children here. Everybody in the room needs to go to Audible. You know, Audible books? Yeah, yeah. And I want you to look up a woman by the name of Allison Armstrong. And I want you to download everything that she's got on there. There's about 5 or 6. And I don't believe there's a human on the planet that understands men better than she does and understands the dynamic between the masculine and the feminine than she does. I think she knows more about women, and I know she knows more about men than anybody I've ever heard in my life, and how we can and cannot work together and how we do and don't work together well. So I highly recommend that. She talks exactly about what you're talking about very clearly. Yeah. And yeah, when you bring me soup, it's not soup. You're saying, I love you. That's what the soup represents.
Yeah, because if there's no dinner,
Right.
you know something's
So
definitely
like
off.
when you bring me the soup,
Yeah.
my correct response should be, oh, like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, honey.
But also for the woman, like,
Yeah.
because it happens so fast
Yeah.
that somebody maybe brings you soup or brings you something, but you're like, oh, no, thanks, or oh, I'm already full, or oh, I had a really rough day, or oh, I really don't like this salad today. But actually, there's really something that's going to break.
Well, that's why we lead with appreciation.
Yeah, and
Honey.
that's true.
Oh, thank you so much for making this salad.
Yeah,
It's beautiful. I've never seen a more beautiful salad
yeah,
in my life.
yeah.
And it smells so good.
And between women,
And-
it's different.
Me and the boys had a little snack on the way home, so I'm not really hungry. Can I eat some later? Would that be okay? Like, start with thank you, basically. Thank you. I see you. I love you. I hear you. I appreciate you. And so meet these needs first, and then I'm going to meet my needs, which is I'm a little too full right now. I'm not really feeling like salad. Rather than salad again? Really?
Yeah, but then
Can I get a steak in this house?
But there's also the different way to tell him the next time. You're like, hey, honey, if you think about preparing food again, I would wish for
Right.
maybe some fish or whatever.
Right. Ask
Your
for what you
man
want.
would run to the supermarket and get you the fish
Absolutely.
in the house.
Because
Yeah.
your survival, Alison Armstrong talks about this.
Mm.
What she would call your, what does she call, cave woman, your fight or flight response. If we go back several thousand years ago, your relatives
Yeah.
were living in caves. You depended on me to keep you alive. I had to kill something to keep you and the babies alive. So I'm your provider and protector. That's my job. My job is to provide and protect. So if you don't please me, or if you perceive that you don't please me in any way, from your clothes to your hair to if you're too thin or too big or you didn't cook the right thing or this wasn't clean or the kids' toys are everywhere, if there's anything that you perceive that doesn't make me happy, your cave woman gets triggered and she goes, I'm not safe. I won't be protected. Holy shit.
Yes.
So you immediately like close down. Now the 3, 5, 7-year-olds online, they got out of the back of the bus. They're driving the bus right now. Your cave woman is driving the bus. And he just came home or whatever he's doing, and he's wherever he's at. He didn't get what he wanted, so his little one is now driving the bus. So now no adult is in the room.
Yes.
There's only little people, hurt little people in the room going back to the beginning of time. That's actually who's talking right now.
True. Yeah.
So if I can remember, honey, thank you so much. God, it's so good to be home. My day was horrible. And the soup, the salad, your look, your smile, whatever. If I can lead with appreciation, regardless of who's driving my bus at the moment, if I can remember adult self, appreciate, love, see, hear, love. See, hear, love. See, hear, love. I see you. I hear you. I love you, especially for women. I understand you. If I can get that message across, your little one will calm down. Your cave woman will go, I'm still number one. He's still going to take care of me. I don't have to panic. So that part of you can calm down. And maybe through that discourse, whatever's going on with me can stay present enough to finally for you to come back online. Your big self to come back into the room and go, everything's fine. It's just salad, honey.
Yeah.
We can have more salad
for
tomorrow
women, it's
or
more
more
the
soup. It doesn't mean I don't
security
love you.
and the safety.
Yeah.
But for the man, it's the honor. Like this moment when a man
Men want to be
in
respected
with
and
the-
honored.
with
Yes.
the things he hunted, like on
Absolutely.
the shoulders, and this moment
Right.
of the woman being like, wow,
That's exactly right. When we come back from war,
man.
when we come back from the hunt, i.e. come back from work, we've been hunting all day
Yes.
to provide. What we want is for you to go, thank you.
Yeah.
We want you to sing the song. When warriors would come back from battle, the whole community would get together and feast and sing songs. The women would sing heroic songs about their man, because he just put his life on the line to provide for all of you. He needs to be valued. He wants to feel valued and appreciated and respected and honored for his giveaway. He gave away of his time. He left you. He loves you. He left you and the babies, the things he loves the most in life, to go out into the big world and to put himself at risk to provide for you.
Yeah.
That deserves something.
And I think also that is the point in where the most conflicts happens
Yep.
Nowadays, because women start to go out, women start to really go and live in this more
Yep.
masculine energy of going out instead of
Yep.
actually like leaning back
Mhm.
and receiving.
Yep.
But also we are here to hold. We are also here to hold our man, that they go out, that they go hunt for us, and we're here to appreciate that, to take that. But then also with what the man is gonna fill me up with, then go out in a loving kind of way, in a holding kind of way, and get this or give this back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a really challenging time for feminine,
Yeah.
and I'll just use feminine and masculine energy.
Yeah.
Feminine right now is expected, wants and expects to go out in the world and what they think is live the life that men have been leading. Oh, they get to go out and work and earn and do all that stuff. Awesome. Great. But the paradigm is fairly masculine. So for you to survive in that world, you have to armor up pretty much. You have to become more masculine in your way of communicating, in your way of holding yourself, in your way of being in that world. But the problem is, if you're with a masculine person, when you come home and you are in a traditional relationship of a masculine energy and a feminine energy, one of you has to go back to being feminine. So sometimes the men do that. Sometimes the men who were emasculated as younger ones, they become more effeminate because she's taken on the role of the masculine. So there's always going to be balance. There's always going to be yin and yang, always, unavoidable. So if you're in a quote-unquote traditional relationship with a quote-unquote traditional man and a woman, and she's out there working too, Allison talks about this often, you have to find some way to make the transition on your way home from work. And maybe that's when you get home, you do a shower, you do a bubble bath, you find some way to put down the masculine armor and come back into your soft feminine, because that's what I married. If I wanted a man, I would have married a man. I don't want to marry a man, personally.
Yeah.
I want to marry a woman. Soft, gentle, sweet. Yeah, you want to come out work, by all means, do that.
Yeah.
Be that.
I think
And
we women
when you
don't
come home,
see. Yeah.
what can I do? Maybe my job is you call me, maybe if I'm home before you, honey, I'm on my way home. Great. I'm upstairs, bath is drawn, I got the candles, lights are down. Like,
Oh,
I'm going to
wow.
create the goddess temple so that when you come
Would
home,
love to come home.
you can put down the armor, and go back to being a goddess. Go back to being the feminine.
Yeah.
How can I help you with that?
Yeah.
Because that's what I want.
But
I
there's
don't
also
want to
the
be with
first
the man
step
that you
to
are.
realizing it, to realize that going out for the woman, like leaving her cage, is actually for the woman super stressful, because she's
Absolutely.
in this energy and she's here like all the time, blah, 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 but actually she wants to be here.
Yeah.
She will
Well, you
feel
do.
better
Some
here.
women don't. So
Yeah.
for you want to
And it
make that
takes
transition to come back to
time,
being
sure.
receptive and open and soft. And if you're with a masculine, whether it's a woman or a man, if you're with a masculine energy, ask them to help you do that. What can they do to help you come back and let all that go?
Yeah, I
Because you're
think
going to have to
it's-
armor up tomorrow. This is what men do
Yeah.
every day. You don't see us do this,
Yeah.
but we do this every day. If we go out there in the world, we armor up.
But it's also, you're more comfortable also in this kind
No,
of
that's your
energy.
story. That's what
Right?
a woman thinks.
Yeah.
But that's not what it meant, that we are not comfortable armoring up.
No.
No. Some men are comfortable in the warrior archetype. Most men are not in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
We do not like it at all. We want, when we come home, I don't want to come home and have to have you work through all these barriers I put up. I want to put all that shit down. I want to put the sword down. I want to put the shield down. I want to put all that stuff away so that we can have the thing that we had when we first met.
Oh, that's actually a nice metaphor.
That softness and
I
that
like
sweetness and that intimacy, the fact that you can actually hear the deepest part of my heart. I've been protecting my heart all day from everyone and everything. I don't like that. That's what most men have to do. And then when we come home, we either stay in the armor because you're not safe, because you can't hurt us more than anyone, or you have to fight or find some way to invite us to put it down.
Wow. Thank you for sharing.
Because
It
we
was
don't,
really
I've never met a man who wants that. We don't want that.
nice perspective.
I-
Or-
I want to be naked with you in the bathtub. That's what I want. I want to remember what it was like when we first started, and I want to have that every day. We have that intimate, vulnerable connection every day, and we have to work to make that. We have to support each other to get there, which means I clean the bathroom. I do the dishes. I keep the garage straightened. Like, that's all part. It's none of that's not connected. For a woman, all of those are connected. For a guy, it's like, who cares if I did the garage? Honey, let's go up and get in the bathtub. You're like, I've been asking you for the garage for 3 fucking years. Why can't you clean the garage? Until he cleans the garage, we're not getting in the bathtub together. So we have to support each other in my want. I'll use a nice statement. My job is to support my partner in coming back to her essence, feminine essence, whatever that is for her. What can I do to support that? Because that's what I want. Like, there's something deep in me that's like hungers for that. And then vice versa, I need to do the things I need to do to put down my shield. You're not my enemy. You will say things and do things that hurt me, and back here you become the enemy. I have to protect myself from you because you can hurt me more than anyone. If we're in a relationship, you can cut me to the bone quicker than anyone. So what can I do to keep putting my shield down? Keep putting it down. Put the sword away. Take the armor off. What is it? Kali, keep cutting off my head so that I finally get to my heart. And that's terrifying for us. You don't realize you think you're the only one that's scared. Only women are scared. No, sorry. Hello. Why do you think we armor up? We are terrified. No one gave us a book either. No one showed us anything how this world works. We're stumbling through it just like you are. We don't have the rule book. We're just trying to figure it out. But I want to figure it out with you. I want you to help me figure it out. I want to be in a partnership, like we help each other. Which means when we both get triggered, some adult has to enter the room. One of us has to figure out a way to get back to being the adult. One of us has to go back to driving the bus so that we can hold the wheel until the other one comes back. And not use that as an excuse to break up, to break apart. And that's hard. That's the hardest thing in the world. That is the hardest thing in the world. Because I have to sit in front of you and be vulnerable and cry and tell you, the thing I said was wrong, or the thing I did, I'm so ashamed of that, or blah, blah, blah. And that ties back down to X story when I was 3. I have to show you how fucked up and wounded I am. How quote unquote, what a terrible person I am. I have to be that vulnerable in front of you, the one I want you to believe I'm your hero. I can do it all. I got you. But I have to be that vulnerable, and that's terrifying. None of us want to do that. But you also heal if you hold that space for us and you don't get triggered into your masculine wounds. If you can hold that place for your partner, the partners that have done that for me, by far the greatest healing I've had in my feminine wounds, by far. And the most healing I've had as a man is when a woman could hold me that deeply. And I could completely surrender it all. No more protection of anything. Then it's like I'm falling back into the mother, the great mother. That's what you represent in that moment. I go back to the womb. You are Mother Mary. You are holding me. You can give that to your partner. You can heal him more than anybody if you can do your healing work.
Yeah, breathe and stay
Yeah.
grounded to also hold space.
Long answer. Long answers.
Very beautiful.
One more question. I have to take a bio break myself. My questions might start. I might start speaking very fast.
Hi, Vince.
Yeah.
I'm Jelena.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to say that I completely agree with the part that women are trying to be way more masculine than they used to be. But I do think that also one reason for that is, for example, I would love to be a stay-at-home mom and fully depend on my husband. But of course, if you look at all the stories that are happening and people are getting cheated on, and you don't really, I mean, of course you do trust your husband, but there's always like the risk. So you always try to be realistic with the situation. And that's why I want to open up a new topic. And I would like to ask you, what is your opinion on being cheated on, but men talking about they love you, but they still cheat? What do you think about that?
Remind me your name again?
Jelena.
Jelena. Jelena, how do you cheat on yourself?
maybe if I say, if I lie to myself, I cheat to myself.
So there's a term in this work we say, you spot it, you got it. There's nothing going on out there that's not going on in here. How many men have you cheated on?
I've been cheated on, but I never cheated in my whole life. I swear to God. Like, for real. For me, that's like the most disrespectful thing a person can do. And that's why I don't understand why some people are talking about, no, I love her, but I still cheat.
So part of that, where are you from?
I'm from Germany. I mean, my parents are from Serbia, but I was born and raised in Germany.
So a friend of mine, she's a songwriter, and she wrote a song called Broken Picker, which means picker, meaning the way she chose the same man over and over and over again. Yeah, he looked different. He drove a different car. He wore a different suit, but she chose the same man over and over. So who's making the choices? Is it the men or is it you? You're choosing.
I agree.
You're choosing these men who have a particular character flaw. Or not. They're just leading a particular lifestyle. You know, you don't want to be in an open relationship, it sounds like. You want to be in a monogamous relationship.
True.
And maybe did you have an agreement with these men that they said, yes, I will only be with you?
I mean, it's not that we talked about it. I mean,
well, then what do you want, young lady?
No, we actually did. Like, it was when
did
we talked
he say, and he looked you in the eyes, and you made an agreement? Men are about agreements. If you want a man to be monogamous, you have to look him in the left eye, really close and really serious. And you say, and you haven't slept with him yet, if you want to be with me, we are in a monogamous relationship. Do you understand what that means? Tell me the meaning of monogamous. And he has to explain it to you, to your satisfaction. And then if you think he's got it, then there's got to be some kind of a commitment. Because you're making a promise too. Two people make a promise. It's the only way a promise works. Promise isn't one way. Two people, in this case. So, you're choosing shitty men. So you got to look at that. That's your responsibility. It isn't, women use this excuse all the time. Men are this, men are that, men are cheaters, men can't be trusted, always going like that. And they're never looking at the three pointed back at them going, excuse me, you're choosing. I know men who aren't.
So, aren't cheaters, you mean? Or
yeah. So that's all about you. It has nothing to do with the men. They're making their choices. You're choosing the wrong kind of guys. So that's the first step. You need to do your work around your masculine wounding. I don't know what kind of relationship you had with your father, but there's something there. So you need to do that work. So when you do that work and you heal that part of yourself, then you're going to start to choose different kind of men. Different kind of men are going to start showing up because you're going to start holding yourself in a different way. You're going to value yourself in a different way. You're going to embody yourself in a feminine way that's very different than you do now, which is attracting a certain kind of guy. It's not about them. It's all about you and the choices you're making, which is you're not, number one, valuing yourself enough to choose men who are committed to you and share the same values like I was talking about earlier. You're going in one direction, they're going in another direction. You're not going in the same direction. And then you're choosing to get in relationship with them and sleep with them before you know what direction they're going in. That's you. That's not them.
But I mean, it's not just about men. It's like in general, because it only happened to me once. And after the relationship, of course, the cheating part was like the worst part. But then after that, when I talked to so many different people, also people where I was like 100% sure they would never ever cheat. They were like, yeah, you know what? I did that too. And I'm like, what? How is that even possible? And men and women. And I'm like, but why are you still
we don't
with
want
the
to have that
person?
conversation. We don't want to talk about the body counts of women at all. No one wants to have that conversation. That's illegal to have that conversation. We can only talk about men. In my world, we are both choosing. In the world I live in, you are as much culpable as I am. 100% responsibility, both sides. So there are cultures where that's accepted and almost expected in certain cultures, right? So you're coming up against that just in the beginning. Like, oh, this is what men do. They use that term, but in that culture, in other cultures, it's not expected at all. So there's that. Yeah, could we go back into the beginning of time and men needed to sleep with many women so that we could all be here? Yeah, that's back there for sure, 100%. And if you want to subscribe to the monogamous, married, male, feminine paradigm, that structure, which seems to overall work pretty well for humanity for a long time, seems to be a good system, then you both have to be responsible. And you both have to make good choices. And you both have to work through, like you choose a man who's strong enough, and you have to be strong enough for me to come home to you and go, I saw a woman today. I saw a woman at the market today. And I want to bring that home to you. You have to be able to be strong enough to hold that so that he could be 100% vulnerable and go, I saw this woman and she looked like this, and oh my God, I could just feel this. I could feel myself. Oh. You don't understand because you don't have any testosterone. You don't have as much testosterone running through your body as we do. There was a wonderful movie about a young woman who was transitioning into a man, and she was being interviewed with her partner. And she said she did this hormone block, she did this. And once they started pumping her with testosterone, she wanted to have sex with everything and everyone all the time. She was like, it drove me insane. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to the world of a 15-year-old male. It's nonstop. You guys don't get it because you don't have that chemical. You think we're just, as Alison Armstrong puts it, women think men are just misbehaving, hairy women. We are not. We are not like you at all. Like not at all. So if I'm making a promise to be in relationship with you, and I make that covenant, I make that promise, and maybe we get married, right? I have to be also able to bring that home to you because I'm still going to be attracted to other women. That it's not conscious. I don't think about it. It happens. My body responds. Okay? So I need to be able to bring my body response home to you.
And I think that would be like the best part, even though it's probably very hard to hear sometimes. And it's like, oh my God,
absolutely.
There's another woman and he thinks that
right.
it's attractive.
Right.
She's attractive. But as long as you're honest with me, I can deal with that.
Right.
I can talk to you. I can understand. I'm going to try to understand you. But as soon as you do it behind my back, that's like...
Of course,
that's not
because that's a breach of trust.
Like,
that's a betrayal, and a betrayal is the hardest thing to heal, 100%. There's nothing harder to heal in a woman or in a relationship than betrayal. So you have to do your work so that you can hold what I bring home to you. You can hold all of it, all of me, the perpetrator and the victim, the hero and the one who was killed. You got to hold all of that.
But do you think that women who are, let's say, do their job and they do all of this and their husbands or partners are still cheating?
Well, then you're clearly in the wrong relationship.
Even though when they say like, no, but I still love her.
No.
I just don't want to leave her because it's perfect with her, but I just need this and this.
Why would you do that? You either have two choices. Be okay with that. So you have a husband who cheats. Okay, so then what do? Do you go cheat? Then like, how's that arrangement going to work? How are you going to live with that knowledge? Always in the mind going, where was he? Who was he with? I can smell her on him. Like, you know when we cheat. You know it.
Definitely.
Like, we're not hiding anything from you. We can't hide it. It's impossible. So you either stay in the relationship and sacrifice your values, or you get out of the relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Like,
And you choose a better man. And you don't sleep with a man until like you guys are solid. Don't give yourself away to somebody who doesn't deserve you and who isn't in alignment with you. Which means, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
25.
You're 25. All right. So you're still in princess phase. So you're still going to be looking for princes. I invite you to look for a man who's on the cusp of becoming a king. No more princes. Because princes, they're still all about, even though he's with you, he's still, unless he wants to build a life with you. Like, you want to find someone who wants to build a kingdom. You want to meet and be with a man who's building a kingdom at your age, right? If he's not about that, then women marry across and up in status. So if you're not finding a man who's building something for the future, you're in the wrong place. You're fishing in the wrong pond, which means that's about you. You need to get your stuff together so that you attract a quote unquote, a man of quality, a man who sees you for who you are. And it's like, I love you. I want to be with you for the rest of my life. I want to build a life with you. And that means you and me. And that means you're going to see a man sometime and you're going to want to be with him. That's going to happen. And I need you to bring that home to me. I need you to bring that need, that want, that hunger home to me. And equally, there's going to be women I'm going to meet and I'm going to want to be with them. And I have to be able, if we're going to stay monogamous, that just like the little kids we were talking about, the young boys, that energy has to go somewhere. It's just energy. That's all it is. Yeah. It's just energy. You need to be okay for me to bring the energy to you. It's not, don't make a story. This is where we get in trouble. You make a story. Oh, he loves her. He wants to be with her. He's going to protect her and be with her, and he's going to abandon me. No. You need to be solid enough on your own 2 feet for me to come home and go, I need to bring this to you.
Let the energy out.
And let's go there, whatever that is. Okay? You don't have to be somebody different. You don't have to be her. None of that. I mean, that's why people role play and they do that stuff and the wigs and the dresses and all that stuff, so they can both explore all those parts of themselves that if we just stay like this, there's a million parts of me that want to be expressed. There's a million parts of you that want to be expressed. So can we create a container to allow you to be all the women that you are? Because you're not just this one. You're like all of these and 10,000 more. So I have to be able to create a container to welcome all of those in. Some of them I'm going to like and some of them I'm not. But I got to be able to hold that. And the same thing. We're not just monosyllabic dinosaurs, cavemen. We're not. Men are very complex. Men are very intricate. So you have to be open to discover who we really are, not the story of who you think I am. Who am I really? And that might scare you sometimes. But if you really want me to be with you and only you, and that's the promise I make, then you have to be able to create a space so that I can bring all of me to you. And that's your work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, everybody's up. Everybody's ready to go. More questions? Are we done? Anybody? Can we go to somebody else because you've already asked one? Would that be okay? Does anybody else before we? And then we'll come back to you, Dagmar.
Vince, this is not a question, but an expression of gratitude for the reminder of how profound and sacred is the job that we take on of going and collecting the younger men and initiating them so they don't burn the village down.
Yep.
I want to thank you for that.
100%. That's your job. That's my job. It's every man's job in this room to go do that, and it's every woman's job in this world to let go, to let us in at midnight, and we take the boy and we take him out into the scary big world and we initiate him. They have to let go. But they won't let go. The reason they're not letting go, because we ain't showing up. That's why they're hanging on so hard. We have to show up. so they can feel safe to let go, that we got them. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Vince.
Hey.
I'm Sammy. Going back to Lisa's question, how long am I going to hold space for my partner to open up and give him the safe space until I let go? So when is the time to let go and don't hold space anymore and just look to myself?
Yeah. What I think I'm hearing you say is, how long do I stay in relationship? When do I leave the relationship?
Yeah, I mean, not even relationship, if also before the relationship, how much time do I give the person?
How much time do you want to be given? Sorry. I know it hurts. Sorry.
I don't know.
You better know. You better figure that out. Because it's not about him. It may be that, again, your values, we're humans and we're very dynamic and we're learning and we're growing all the time. And I'm on a path and I'm learning and growing and I'm on my human path and you're a human and you're on your human path. And sometimes they're doing this and sometimes we're doing this and sometimes we're doing this. Sometimes we're growing apart. And it's hard when we grow so far apart that we finally have to go, gosh, it's just like there's not enough deposits to equal the withdrawals. There's a guy that did a study, and I forget what it was. I think, again, it's 9 or 10 positive affirmations to every one negative comment. And if we're not in that ratio, the relationship will be done, 100%. So that's a hard thing. When am I done? When do I say goodbye? I've said goodbye in relationships. I've looked back in horror that I did that, forgetting all the hardship, forgetting the hard times, in regret. I got another altar we should all build somewhere in our house or in our world is a stack of stones, a stack of rocks. And that is our regrets. Each one. And every once in a while we go out there and we visit that. So we need to be reminded of the choices we made, choices I made. I got a lot of regrets. Lot. I got a lot of good and beautiful things in my life too, but I got a lot of regrets. So you have to look at yourself and how long do you want a man to hold you till you figure it out, till you come around. And that should give you an indication of how long you should expect him, you hold. And my aunt, I'll give you a piece of advice my aunt gave me when I was young. I had a story, I had a paradigm that everybody was supposed to be in my life forever. I was, 12, 13, 14 years old, something like that. Friends were supposed to last forever. Family's supposed to last forever. Like every relationship I'm supposed to have forever. I have no idea where I got that. And she said something to the effect of, Vince, not everybody is in your life, is meant to be in your life forever. Some people just come in for a moment. Some people come in for a season. Some people come in for a short time. And that's the medicine we need in that moment. And then they go on to their life. We're not all supposed to be connected forever. It's a very unrealistic expectation. We live so much longer now. When we got married in the past, we were only living to 30 and 40 years old. Now we're living to 80, 90. That's a long time to be with the same person. Holy smokes. Right? Can we do it? Absolutely, 100%. Do we choose to do it? Most of the time not, because, hey, there's somebody prettier, smarter, sexier, more money. He's got more money. He's got a better house, better sex. Like, we find all kinds of excuses to bail because we have more opportunities now. They didn't have that many opportunities. And as someone who's been married and divorced twice, who wants to get married again, I have a hope. My best growing, my best times, my best feeling of peace and love and acceptance and understanding and profound connection has always been in relationship. It's never been when I was single. I mean, it is in the work that I do with men. It's amazing, and I love it, and it keeps me going. But when I'm in relationship, and when I'm in a committed relationship, not a polyamory thing that so many young folks really want to do now, and it's great, it's awesome, and isn't it great we can have sex with everybody? Yeah, and like quickly that wears out. I mean, it doesn't when you're real young, but being, when you're 30, 40, 50, it's not a great lifestyle at all. So the deepest, most profound connection you can have is in a committed relationship. 100%. That's why it's worked. Is it hard? You bet. And we have more tools now. We know more about the human psyche. We know more about the human physiology. We know more about each other, so we can find all kinds of ways to get through the hard stuff. We can go see people. Our parents didn't go to therapy. They didn't go. None of this stuff was available to them. They drank. They went bowling. They played golf. They went fishing. They did things to deal with this stuff. We can actually get help. We can get tools. We can get support. So I don't know what your experience is, but again, like mine was like when I'm in 100% and I meld with my partner, that is the portal to God. That is the portal to the divine. There's nothing more sacred than that. I never get that with casual sex, ever. So be in and commit and work through the hard shit. And if it doesn't work, and you keep trying. If he's not working, if he's not doing self-actualization work of some kind, then yeah, you need to be out of that relationship, unless he's already, maybe he's an enlightened being already and he doesn't need to do this work. If he's a bodhisattva or whatever, fine, but chances are not. So if he's not meeting you on a path of self-exploration and self-knowledge, again, choose somebody who will meet you. Choose somebody who's worthy of your time and that you want to invest the time in, and they want to invest the time in you. Like when he looks at you, his knees melt, he gets hard, he falls apart, he gets scared and hungry at the same time. There's nothing like that. There's nothing on the planet like desire and hunger for one person. But it's the work that will sustain that over time. So find a guy who looks at you like he wants to eat you, devour you, take you in, take in your essence, and you meld as one. If he's not looking at you that way, you're in the wrong place. And if you've been in a relationship, I was talking to a guy this weekend, he'd been married for 32 years, and it was clear very quickly he was speaking to his wife. He was not looking at her like that anymore. And I landed right in the middle of his shit. And when you get home, you look at her like you did on the first time you saw her. You remind her of what that was like, that she is that woman. Yeah, it's 32 years later. And yeah, you got all this stuff. You want another 32 years? You better step up right now. Because the way you're talking to her and the way you're acting is like you're resentful and you're bitter and you're angry like a 2-year-old. You're throwing a temper tantrum every time you go home. You're treating her like the mother, not the lover. My job is to remind you, you're my lover. That's number one. You're amazing. And if I remind you of that enough, you'll remind me that I'm a king. You remind me that there's no other man on the planet that can touch you and love you the way that I can. But I got to show you, we both have to do that for each other. And if we're not doing that for each other, we either have to find a way to do that for each other, or if you're not married and you're just in a relationship right now, it's like, fine, how old are you?
26.
26. How long have you been with this person?
I'm not.
You're not with a person right now. You're single. Okay. All right. You're at the ripe age to be finding a husband.
Yeah.
If that's what you want. You know, whatever. I don't know what you're choosing or what your lifestyle is, but it sounds like you want a partnership. So like this is the time, which means you have to show up in the world as someone who is ready for partnership. Like when somebody looks at your forehead, that word is there. I don't know what is partnership in German?
Beziehung.
Hmm?
Beziehung.
Beziehung? That's what it says right there. Right there. I am a great Beziehung. Okay? I'm the best Beziehung. Right there. Everywhere you walk, that's what you look like. Every word that comes out of your mouth, I'm an amazing partner. I'm a great partner to myself. I take care of myself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And I attract people who do the same thing. And I won't accept anything less. That's what you deserve. But that's a trap. All women think, oh, I'm a high quality woman. I deserve a certain kind of man. Sorry, bullshit. You have to show up as that. You have to be that. Not just say it, not just claim it. You have to be it. You have to earn me as much as I have to earn you. Why should I protect you? Why should I provide for you? You have to show me. Because I'm going to die earlier than you. I only got so much time on the planet. I only have so much energy. You have to earn my time and earn my respect. Just as much as I have to earn you, yours. So be that woman. Be a great partner. And then you'll attract an amazing partner that won't cheat on you. Hopefully. No, not hopefully, because you're gonna be that. You are that. Be that. Be a queen. Expect the king. Now you're a little young for that archetype, but expect that energy. Someone who's like, I'm here, and honey, we're gonna build a future together. That's what we're here for. And I want to do that with you and nobody else. That's what you should hear. If you don't hear that, get the fuck out. Don't waste time. Don't waste a second of time. What do they say? You got to kiss a lot of frogs, you know? So quit attracting frogs. Attract princes. Attract kings who are ready to build a kingdom with you and accept nothing less. But you got to know what you want. That's the problem. You're all confused. What we would say in America, get your shit together. Don't say all the men are screwed up and the men don't have their shit together. Excuse me, where's a mirror? Hello? Take a look. Look in the mirror. You first. You get it together, you'll attract a guy who's got it together, or at least who's willing to walk down the path with you together. And you'll work it out together with help. You'll reach for help when you need it. That's what the community's for. We're struggling. We need help. Okay, come. Wise ones. Here comes the elders. We come help. We talk. We hold space. Help you guys figure it out. Again, another really long answer. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Guys, how are we feeling?
Yeah, it's getting late. Everybody's hanging out there ready to get the hell out of here. When is this guy going to stop talking? These Americans, they just talk and talk and talk. Let's call it a break. I do, because I have to go over there really bad. I have to go enjoy that gigantic bathroom for a minute, and then I'll come back and we can talk whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vince, very much, honestly.
Thank you.
It just really... Yeah, well...
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for saying yes. What I've learned in life, I say yes to things that are in alignment with who I am and what I am. And I trust how that's ever going to work out. I don't question it. I just say yes. I say yes to two things. I say yes to the thing that is a clear yes, and then I say yes to the butterflies, the things I'm afraid of, because I know that's a growing edge. So I step into that fear, okay, if that's a fear for me. So thank you for this opportunity. Thank all of you for coming and spending all this time. I have no concept. It's probably like midnight or something. It's probably really late. You've all been very patient listening to me blabber on. So thank you all very much for being here. It's a very great honor for me. And this says a lot about you, that you have these kinds of beautiful friends who will come from all over because you said, come. So it's not about me. It's about you and the world that you create. You did that. Can you see that?
I received that.
No. Can you see it? Look around. That's what you did. Okay. We can be amazing manifestors when we want to. We can manifest anything. Got a heart surgeon back there who can fix hearts. How is that even possible? Magic. So, done, fixed. We can manifest amazing things, and you did that. So thank you.
Thank you, Vince.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. From the bottom of my heart. There's not much else to say, really. So have a wonderful night, and thanks for coming. Let's do this again.